Good morning. I'm Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 digital desk. I hope you're having a good start to your day. Halfway through the week, so we're getting there. I know I'm ready for the weekend. I don't know about you, but it's a nice day out there. A live look from our High 5 camera here in Midtown Memphis. Really a pretty view from outside the window. It's going to be a pretty nice day. Temperatures could get into the 70s, and for the most part, it's supposed to be dry, maybe a few showers in northern Mississippi. Let's go ahead and head over to Spencer Denton. I know he's tracking the possibility of some rain coming through on Thursday, so he's going to time that out for you, let you know what you can expect and how you can prepare your day.
Hey, I'm Action News 5 meteorologist Spencer Denton. As we go through the rest of your Wednesday, we're expecting some isolated showers, especially to the south of Memphis. Not everybody will get wet today, and there may even be a little bit of sunshine out there at times, but a few showers can't be ruled out through 4 o'clock. As we go into the evening hours, mostly dry, some clouds, but then the big rain event comes in late tonight into tomorrow morning, and it could be heavy. We could even see some thunderstorms with this as we go through early tomorrow morning, with temperatures holding in the 50s to low 60s. None of this should be severe, but then we dry out and warm up quickly tomorrow afternoon. In fact, looking at highs in the mid to upper 70s, that could fuel another line of storms that comes in along the main cold front as we go into tomorrow evening. So we'll have to watch. A couple of these could be on the strong side with some wind or hail. So we'll keep you posted on that. Then as we go into Friday, it looks like mainly dry with temperatures ranging from the mid 60s to the low 70s. Here's a look at how much rain is going to fall, 1 to 2 inches. This is mainly for tomorrow night into portions of Friday morning. And again, we're looking at those temperatures holding in the 60s for many areas, but some areas could briefly hit the low 70s. For today, a 30% chance of a shower. And if you're heading down to the Grizz game tonight, looks like if you're going to be out on the plaza or out on Beale before the game, temperatures in the upper 60s. Take an umbrella just in case we have a downpour or two out there. But again, it's a very small chance as of right now. The rain will come in late tonight, though. 80% chance of rain and some thunder. Check out the First Alert 7-day forecast. Morning rain gives way to sun, then another round of rain and storms Thursday night. Dry Friday. The weekend looks mostly dry. There could be a couple of showers here or there with another front coming through, and it looks dry to start next week with highs near 70.
How about a nice check from downtown Memphis, the M Bridge there? Things seem to be moving smoothly as far as traffic goes. I've been monitoring the TDOT SmartWay cameras. All clear right now. Of course, some of those high traffic areas this time of morning, like the flyover, you see traffic starting to really pick up there, but no crashes that I can see just from looking at the TDOT SmartWay maps. That's good news for your Wednesday morning. So more money for Memphis first responders is on the table, and Mayor Jim Strickland's last budget proposal before leaving office, Strickland decided he was going to make a case for those raises to the Memphis City Council Tuesday. Action News 5's Bria Bolden has more on that proposal.
On his last budget proposal during his time as Memphis mayor, Jim Strickland proposes a $792 million budget, about $42 million more than last year.
It does not include an increase in property taxes to be paid by our citizens.
Some of the budget includes $33.4 million to the Memphis Area Transit Authority, $28.4 million in city personnel cost, $96 million for a 5-year safety plan that includes new body-worn cameras and recording systems for police, a new Rain Station precinct, a new library to replace the Levi Branch Library, and more. Strickland also proposing a 14% pay increase for Memphis Police and Memphis Fire, using funds from the public safety tax referendum.
The numbers of our recruitment and retention, it'll happen after I'm gone, but we need to be up to 21, 22, 2,300 officers for the safety of the city.
Strickland is asking the council to combine the 5% salary increase for first responders with the 9% retention bonus funded through the referendum. He says it would make Memphis first responders the highest paid among the surrounding counties in our area.
It's the hardest job to be a police officer or firefighter in this region. I think everyone would agree. It's harder than being a firefighter in Germantown or a police officer in Collierville. It just is. So we ought to be the highest paid. But I think money is just one of our challenges.
Strickland added morale within the department needs to be improved as well. He also says the state comptroller, both Memphis fire and police chiefs gave the green light for his plan for pay increases.
Now, this new budget would go into effect on July 1st, but council will discuss it further and make some possible changes beginning next month. We'll, of course, follow that along for you, let you know what happens with that. Well, Memphis voters will decide next year if candidates for mayor and city council must live within city limits for at least 2 years before an election to qualify to run. Two candidates for mayor, Shelby County Sheriff Lloyd Bonner and former Shelby County Commissioner Van Turner, sued the Shelby County Election Commission over its 5-year residency requirement for the 2023 Memphis municipal election. A court will decide on that matter. So the Memphis Police Department is telling the City Council that they plan to launch a pilot program this summer. And Action News 5's Stephanie Douglas explains how that plan is going to work.
Greenlaw Community Center, located in Uptown, features a 2-acre park, a playground, a basketball court, and plenty of open space. This is why Memphis Police Department says the center will serve as a safe holding area for minors to stay after curfew until guardians are notified.
It's not a detention center or anything like that, but if something happened to one of our young people that's wandering around, the responsibility is on us.
Currently, renovations are being done to the community center. Once those renovations are done, MPD will take over the center from Memphis Parks. In the meantime, Memphis Police Chief CJ Davis says the department will use their precincts to hold juvenile curfew violators. However, the process has raised questions and concerns from some members on the city council.
It has to be some type of detention center.
We don't want our police department to end up being a daycare.
I think that we all, myself included, can do better on how we're framing this conversation.
CJ Davis says the plan isn't to target minors. Instead, it's about following existing curfew ordinance and to ensure parents are aware of their children's whereabouts at all times.
After, 11 and 12 o'clock at night, hopefully you know where your children are and that they're not into mischief, they're not committing various types of crimes.
That was Stephanie Douglas reporting there. Before the summer rollout, council members requested another presentation from MPD. Memphis Police says that the hope is to start the program sometime in June. So I want to talk about this. There's a new report by the Shelby County Crime Commission and the U of M Public Safety Institute that says crimes are up across the board so far in 2023. The overall major violent crime rate is almost 8% from last year, up 8%. And that's largely linked to a roughly 73% increase in reported murders and a 41.3% increase in reported rapes. Some staggering numbers there, but then take a look at this here. Major property crime is up much more, almost 44%. That's thanks mostly to a whopping 155% increase in those motor vehicle thefts. And we've just been talking about that. It's been a reoccurring theme here about those motor vehicle thefts. So have you seen our top story at actionnews5.com? It's a pretty wild story. There's 4 escapees right now from the Hydes County Detention Center. They apparently escaped Sunday. And you can see here, one of those escapees is now accused of killing a preacher who stopped to help him on the side of the road. That was on I-55 South. So you can read that full story right now and take a look at this report that was filed. It'll have all 4 escaped inmates' pictures so you can know who to be looking out for. Scary deal. Well, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee signed new legislation increasing penalties for rape and kidnapping cases. Did you hear about this? The new law increases the minimum sentence for rape and expands the requirement to register as a sex offender to anyone convicted of any kidnapping offense, rather than just kidnapping involving children. New penalties will take effect on July 1st. All right, how about them Grizzlies? It's going to be win or call it quits. Win and stay home. If they don't pull out that win against the Lakers tonight, Grizzlies back in the Bluff City for Game 5 against the Lakers. In this game, like I mentioned, it's a do or die as the Grizzlies are only one loss away from getting eliminated from the playoffs. There's going to be a Plaza party to get hyped up starting 2 hours before the game at the FedEx Forum Plaza. They're always a lot of fun. There's going to be live music, and fans are encouraged to show off their game day outfits in front of the new mural created by local artist Brandon Marshall. Tip-off for that game set for 6:30 tonight. Go Grizzlies.
Our friend at WAVN The Trend, it's Talisa Franklin. Time to talk with her on the digital desk. How are you, my friend?
I am amazing. How are you?
I am doing great. It is a beautiful day, and we're just, every day above ground's a great day. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? In our church, we say it feels good to be standing on the ground versus the ground is standing on you. So I'm telling you, we have something to be excited for. And, Andrew, I'm always excited about what we have going on in our amazing Bluff City. Bluff City just knows how to do fun community events. And I am so excited and proud of Commissioner Charlie Caswell. And he's always doing things in the community and trying to bring fun and laughter to all. And so on this Sunday, it's a Children's Day festival, y'all. I love children, and to see what Commissioner Charlie Caswell and the International Flea Market is doing together is impactful. The Children's Day Festival is this Sunday, y'all, from 3 p.m. at the Memphis International Flea Market. That's at 4010 Jackson Avenue. Listen, there will be lots of fun, games, music, prizes. Bring your children and the entire family. This is something that everybody can come out and have fun. And it is powered by our amazing commissioner that is doing a great service for his district. So I just want to say shout out to Commissioner Charlie Caswell, that truly have a heart for the community. And then I want to tell y'all, this weekend, y'all, I am so proud and blessed to be on a ticket for the Glory Encounter, which is a weekend. But on that Saturday morning, I have the pleasure of being accompanied by so many great people for the Unleash and Unlock the Glory Encounter. And that event will be power-packed, an amazing event where you can get the tools and the resources that you need so that you can be successful. A lot of us maybe think that our goals and our visions are locked up, but baby, on this weekend, it is an opportunity for many of us to share some of our best practices to help you be that best person that you can be. And so I'm super excited about all these amazing people. You see their face. We shout out to the visionary, Pastor Tanisha Holiday, which is a young lady that's doing absolutely incredible things for the kingdom. And this Glory Encounter, I believe, is needed because so many times we know how to church. Y'all know we know how to church, right? But sometimes we have challenges on how to live the best life God has ordained for us. And so this Unleash and Unlock the Glory Encounter, you see all the beautiful people there. Myself, Munger, Woodard, Westbrook, McKinney. It's going to be power-packed to take the keys back, to unlock everything that you thought the enemy had that you didn't supposed to have. Baby, you can have it. If God said you can have it, you can have it. So I invite you to get more information at the Glory Encounter. You can go to my Facebook page or go straight to the site. It's this weekend, April 28th and the 29th. You do have to register, but I'm telling you, I believe just that power-packed panelist is going to help you unlock some of the things that's been holding you back from being that best version of yourself right here in the Bluff City.
I love it. I love it, Talisa. You got an atmosphere of prophetic prayer, worship, and empowerment. That sounds amazing for sure this weekend. You are a blessing to all of us, Talisa. Thank you so much. Talisa Franklin, WAVN The Trend. Have a great day and a great rest of the week.
You too, bro.
The COVID health emergency, the public health emergency, is set to end May 11th. That's when the federal government is ending its 3-year COVID public health emergency. It's still with us, but certainly it's not as serious as it once was back in March in 2020. Let's bring in right now Dr. Jennifer Schuster. She is someone who did her residency in Nashville. She's now in Missouri there. She's a pediatric infectious disease specialist, and she's joining us on the digital desk to talk about where we are when it comes to COVID. Dr. Schuster, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Andrew. It's good to be back in Nashville, even virtually.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we're close. You know, we're in Memphis here, so we're about 3 hours away. Not too bad. So where are we? Because, you know, COVID's still around. It's nowhere near as serious as it used to be. The health emergency's ending. From your perspective, where are we?
So we're really moving into a new phase of the pandemic, and that's marked by the public health emergency ending. So we have all of these great tools to keep us healthy and safe as we enter the next phase of the pandemic. We've got vaccines, we have treatments, we have easy access to testing. And so we're really moving out of that emergency phase and learning to live with COVID as part of our normal life. And so that's really what the end of the public health emergency marks.
Okay, is it considered? I heard the term endemic a lot about a year or so ago. Is that where we are? Are we still in a pandemic?
So there are still hundreds of people dying every day from this disease. And so this is still something that we need to be mindful of and alert. But what we can do is we can protect ourselves. And so thinking about this, just like influenza, we prepare ourselves every winter for flu circulating. And we have these great vaccines that are highly effective that can help protect us against COVID-19 and really help protect us. They're quite effective against severe disease.
Okay, I want to dive a little bit deeper on what you just said, because we know that Dr. Walensky, the director of the CDC, has said that people that are vaccinated, she recently admitted that these people who are vaccinated do get COVID. We know tons of people here that have gotten COVID even with the vaccine, and there is a lot of thought that is behind the mindset that if you get the vaccine, the symptoms are less or not as severe. I don't know one who wants to get any more boosters. And combined with that, Jennifer, I'm hearing about a lot of vaccine injuries. In fact, I read somewhere in Germany where they opened up a hotline to call in on vaccine injuries, and the hotline was it went offline because it was so inundated with calls because people are having these injuries with these vaccines. So there are a lot of people concerned about vaccine injuries. What can you tell us about that?
So I think let's go back to what you started with, which is that these vaccines are highly effective. And Andrew, like you, I'm vaccinated and I got COVID. But what that meant for me was I felt a little bit crummy at home for a few days. I did not have to go to the hospital. I didn't have trouble breathing. I didn't have what we would call severe disease. And, a few days later, I was able to go on about my life. And that's what these vaccines and these boosters do, is they really are highly effective at preventing severe illness and preventing people from going in the hospital, which is what our goal is. They're really helping turn the disease into a mild illness, kind of back to thinking like a cold. They're also really good at preventing those long symptoms. You, like me, we probably all know people that are still fighting symptoms after dealing with COVID. They have headaches or fatigue or trouble breathing. And so these vaccines are really effective at preventing, what often people will call long COVID or long haul COVID, those prolonged symptoms. And then when you talk about safety, these vaccines are actually some of the most highly studied vaccines and monitored vaccines because so many millions of people have gotten them, not just in the United States, but around the world. And so these vaccines are highly studied, highly monitored. And if you have questions about them, I always encourage people, talk to your physician, talk to your medical provider. If you have questions about your child, talk to your child's medical provider. Make sure that you're getting good answers to your questions.
What can you tell us about vaccine injuries? Because I know that's becoming more and more of an issue.
So all vaccines are monitored through a number of different mechanisms, both in the United States and around the world. And, the FDA and the CDC are really tracking these to understand, are these are injuries that are reported, are they associated with a vaccine, or do they just are they things that are occurring at the same time? And these vaccines are highly safe, they're highly effective, and they have, like I mentioned before, they have been studied more extensively than other vaccines because so many people have received these.
A lot of people around here, and I'm sure it's the same where you are in Missouri. They're done with the pandemic. They are completely done with it. They don't want to deal with boosters. They don't want to deal with masks. They don't want to deal with any of it. And they're going about their lives. It's been 3 years. They're going about their normal lives. Why should it be any different?
So we know that hundreds of people are still dying every day from COVID-19, and these vaccines are really what is going to keep people safe and healthy. The CDC last week simplified the vaccine schedule. So there was the original vaccine that many of us received early in the pandemic. Many people have heard about the bivalent or the new boosters that came out last fall. And the CDC has really moved ahead and simplified the vaccine schedule. And so right now they're recommending everybody who is 6 months or older get the bivalent booster if they have not already had it. If you've already had that booster, then you are up to date and you're considered protected against the circulating variants. Now, some people we know may be at higher risk, those who are over 65 or immunocompromised, and they may be eligible for a second booster. And so that's a great thing to talk to your medical provider or physician about, and understanding whether you could use a little bit of extra protection. But it's actually quite simple. Everybody needs one bivalent booster if you're over 6 months of age and you're considered up to date.
I don't know about your circles, and perhaps it's different because of what you do. I mean, you are someone who's a pediatric infectious disease specialist, but people around where I am, if they're under the age of 40 and they are healthy, they're staying away from any kind of booster. They're staying away from any kind of shot from COVID-19. And, essentially they're like, look, I'm healthy. I don't need this anymore. And the disease over time is getting weaker and weaker. I don't need any of it. What do you say to those people?
So we've all unfortunately known healthy people under the age of 40 and even children who have passed away from COVID-19. And the purpose of these vaccines is really to turn that severe disease into a mild illness, a cold, something that's bothersome for a couple of days, but not something that lands you in the hospital. And that's what happens with COVID. We never know who's going to get incredibly sick from it and who is going to be just fine. And why roll the dice? The boosters are accessible, they're effective, and now you just need one bivalent booster and you're up to date. So I would roll those dice any day against getting COVID-19.
Dr. Jennifer Schuster, we appreciate you and your insight on all this. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. Tax day is over. Phew, that was close, all right? So we know that we like spending money as Americans, getting the latest and greatest, and the stress of tax day is now behind us. People may be tempted to get something more, or maybe splurge a little bit, but hold the phone, okay? Maybe you should budget more. Maybe you should save more. What are you going to do with this tax refund if you're lucky to get one. Let's bring in someone that's going to help us with that. Stephanie O'Connell Rodriguez, a nationally recognized financial expert and author, is here at the Digital Desk to really talk about maybe some better choices of how to handle that tax refund. And Stephanie, I got to ask, what do you think is the first thing that people should do if they get a refund? Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me here. Well, according to Barclays Bank most recent consumer survey, the majority of Americans are actually hoping to use their tax refund to build their financial security. So we've got some pretty good intentions. Now it comes to how do we put those good intentions to build our financial savings, maybe pay down our debt into practice. And I think in order to do that, it's going to look different for everybody. We got to start by taking stock of our own financial picture and see what we own versus what we owe. And if we owe a lot, maybe we got to take inventory of that debt and see what we owe, to whom, monthly minimum payment, and our interest rate on each debt, so we can prioritize what it looks like to build all those minimum payments into our budget, and then make progress on making payments above the minimum payment on the debt with the highest interest rate, and make progress such that we pay off that debt and then the next highest interest rate debt and then the next, so we can get to our financial security as cost effectively as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the sexiest thing to say, hey, wait, you got a big chunk of change. You can't go to Europe or the Caribbean. No, you got a budget. You got to pay off that debt, put some into savings. I mean, I think that is a great first start. Why is it, though, that so many Americans have just a hard time on saving there? Because we're supposed to have, like, what, 2 months of cash reserves just in case for emergency purposes, right?
That's right. At least 2 months in emergency savings, ideally maybe 6 months, maybe more. After the pandemic, we had people out of work for more than 6 months. So you always want to think about, what's the financial security I need and the emotional security I need to get through another potential financial emergency. Now, when you're trying to figure out how to prioritize this along with your other financial goals, it's really important to make sure that you're making the most of the savings that you do have. So if you go open up a savings account at your local brick and mortar bank, oftentimes you're getting very, very low interest rates on that savings account. And we always talk about, I want to make my money work better for me. But if you're getting 0.35% interest on your savings, which is around the national average, you're really not getting a lot there. So I like to shop around with my savings like I do for anything else. And I really like online high yield savings accounts, which offer interest rates much, much higher than the average. Barclays, for example, has a high yield online savings account with a very high interest rate. They've got no minimum balance requirements, no monthly maintenance fees, plus the FDIC insurance. And as you mentioned, people are having a hard time building up this kind of savings, and that's because prices have been on the rise. Inflation has been the big story these last couple of years. Most recent numbers, 5% increase year over year on our cost of living. And that's not just the vacations, the exciting, sexy stuff. That's the stuff we need, like our groceries, like our housing payments. And so if you really want to build this stuff into your budget, I like to make saving, debt payoff, investing a line item on the budget, just like I do those other expenses.
I like that. That's a great idea. High yield savings accounts. And you're right. Inflation is still outrageous. I know we had something that said it's down to 5%. Well, it shouldn't be higher than 2%. It's still affecting us. Eggs are outrageous, and airfare, my gosh, flying anywhere is super high. So I know that a lot of Americans are starting to go back in debt as a result of a lot of things, including inflation. What's the best method an effective method, the most effective, to pay down debt that so many Americans are accumulating right now?
Well, the best method to pay down debt is the one you can stick with, right? So the only way to figure out what that's going to be for you is to, again, start by taking inventory of what you owe and build it into your budget as you're able. I talked about a method that's called the debt avalanche, and that's where you prioritize paying off the debt with the highest interest rate first. For some folks, it might be tackling the debt with the lowest balance first, so you can see the progress you're making, and that then motivates you to make progress progress on momentum toward paying off the next debt. And I know that it's more cost effective to address your highest interest rate debt first, but again, it's what is going to work for you. Even if it costs you more over the life of your loan, if you're going to stick with it, if you see the progress of knocking out that low interest rate debt first, that's fine by me. Just make sure that as you're doing that debt payoff, you also are building your emergency savings, because if something does come up and you do get an unexpected expense like a medical bill or something happens with your car or your home that you must repair, you really want to have that high yield online savings there for you so you can tap into it and not put it on a high interest rate credit card and add more to your debt.
Just curious, Stephanie, for people out there, how do you find a high yield savings account in your hometown, for example? We're in Memphis.
So typically speaking, you're going to find your high yield savings accounts online. And the reason for this is the high interest rates and the annual percentage yields that you get in those online savings accounts, you get them because they have lower costs of operating. If you don't have to maintain the brick and mortar presence, that's a lot of money saved. And that savings gets passed along to the consumer in the form of these lower fees, in the form of these higher rates. And so going to resources like banking.barclaysus.com will give you information about how you can find your high yield online savings account. And it's really easy to set this up. I have done it. It's how I saved for my wedding. It's the first account that I opened with my husband. Great way to combine finances, by the way. And it's really a great way to maximize the money that you are saving, because when you do just go to your default bank that's on the street, there's a value to that, but you don't get a lot for your money in the savings account. And often in CDs, the interest rate isn't as high as these banks that have the high yield online savings account. So I definitely suggest comparison shopping, just like you do for anything else.
This is a conversation I could have forever, and I know it's very popular among so many people. It's just, financial literacy out there. So let me ask you this. If we have thousands of people that tune in each and every morning watching us here on the Digital Desk, if you were to give like bullet points, maybe 3 bullet points for someone that's looking to have better financial success in 2023, the tax season is now over, tax day has come and gone. What would you recommend?
I think you have to take stock of your full financial picture first. A lot of the times we think we know what we're bringing in each month because we know what we make annually or hourly, but what that actually looks like after taxes, after deductions, in our take-home pay can be very different. And we want to make sure we're planning off of our reality, not off of our aspirations. And then on the flip side, we got to take stock of our expenses. We talked about taking inventory of what we owe and to whom, but also this has to include those savings contributions. This has to include our essential living expenses, housing, groceries, utilities, insurance, all of that good stuff. And making sure, again, we're dealing with the reality of what we're spending, not what we think we're spending, because there can be a surprising gap between the two. And I think the third piece of this is maintaining accountability. So whatever's going to work for you to keep your finances top of mind, I like to say managing my money is a practice. It's not something I do once a year on tax day, and it's not something I do when there's a crisis, because that's just reactive money management. I want to have proactive money management. And so I think a bit like, I don't go to one yoga class and say, all right, I'm done, I'm fit for life, right? It doesn't work that way. I got to go back and I got to go back, and I get better every time I do it. Same thing happens with my money. I check my money on a daily basis. You don't have to be as much of a money nerd as I am to have a good, healthy relationship with your money, but you can certainly go ahead and make checking in on your money once a week to see where it's going, tracking your budget, keeping yourself accountable, and making sure you're maximizing it with these tools like the high yield online savings, CDs, investment accounts, so that you really get your money's worth.
I love it, Stephanie. We've talked about a lot this morning. Where can we go to get some more information, including these tips that we talked about?
Yes, so it is Financial Literacy Month. I know we talked about how important financial literacy is. So you can head to this portal at banking.barclaysus.com. Again, that's banking.barclaysus.com, and go to the resources tab. There's a lot of tools, articles, information about how to manage these money goals, how to get the most from your money, and how to prioritize when you have a lot of money goals at once.
Okay, Stephanie O'Connell Rodriguez, we really appreciate the conversation this morning. I think we helped a lot of people with this and just thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks.
I hope so. Thank you, Andrew.
Hey, I'm Action News 5 meteorologist Spencer Denton. As we go through the rest of your Wednesday, we're expecting some isolated showers, especially to the south of Memphis. Not everybody will get wet today, and there may even be a little bit of sunshine out there at times, but a few showers can't be ruled out through 4 o'clock. As we go into the evening hours, mostly dry, some clouds, but then the big rain event comes in late tonight into tomorrow morning, and it could be heavy. We could even see some thunderstorms with this as we go through early tomorrow morning, with temperatures holding in the 50s to low 60s. None of this should be severe, but then we dry out and warm up quickly tomorrow afternoon. In fact, looking at highs in the mid to upper 70s, that could fuel another line of storms that comes in along the main cold front as we go into tomorrow evening. So we'll have to watch. A couple of these could be on the strong side with some wind or hail. So we'll keep you posted on that. Then as we go into Friday, it looks like mainly dry with temperatures ranging from the mid 60s to the low 70s. Here's a look at how much rain is going to fall, 1 to 2 inches. This is mainly for tomorrow night into portions of Friday morning. And again, we're looking at those temperatures holding in the 60s for many areas, but some areas could briefly hit the low 70s. For today, a 30% chance of a shower. And if you're heading down to the Grizz game tonight, looks like if you're going to be out on the plaza or out on Beale before the game, temperatures in the upper 60s. Take an umbrella just in case we have a downpour or two out there. But again, it's a very small chance as of right now. The rain will come in late tonight, though. 80% chance of rain and some thunder. Check out the First Alert 7-day forecast. Morning rain gives way to sun, then another round of rain and storms Thursday night. Dry Friday. The weekend looks mostly dry. There could be a couple of showers here or there with another front coming through, and it looks dry to start next week with highs near 70.
Okay, back here in the Action News 5 digital desk, we did a story earlier talking about teachers' pay in Tennessee, and both the state Senate and the state House passed a bill that would make it at least $50,000, and that would be filled in over the next 3 school years. Let's talk a little bit about that teachers' pay and what that means with the National Education Association president, Becky Pringle. She is the president, and she joins us now on the digital desk. Tell us about teachers' pay and this new law that goes into effect that's boosting teachers' pay in Tennessee. Good morning.
Good morning. It's good to be with you. So the National Education Association actually does 4 reports annually to take a look at average teacher salary across the nation. They take a look at the starting salary of teachers across the nation, and then knowing the important role that our support staff plays in the education of our students. They took a look at the education support staff salary, and they take a look at the higher education faculty and staff salaries. We produce these reports annually because we want to make sure that as decision makers are making decisions about budgets and policies, that they have information about where their state and locality ranks in terms of teacher and support staff and higher education salary. What we know is that across the board, even though we've seen slight increases in our teacher salaries and support staff salaries, that they have not kept up with inflation. That over these last 10 years, in fact, they have gone down 6.4%. When we take a look at starting salaries, comparing this year to 2008, our teachers' starting salaries have dropped $5,000 when we account for inflation. And then when we take a look at our support staff, 40% of them, 40%, earn less than $25,000. That is not enough money for them to support their families. And in fact, many of their own children qualify for free and reduced lunch. That is not okay. And we know that this is just making worse what is already true, that we have an educator shortage in this country.
Okay, so Ms. Pringle, I don't know if you heard much about the introduction to you this morning, but we talked about how the State House and the State Senate in Tennessee just passed a bill in their legislative session boosting Tennessee teacher salaries to have a start to at least $50,000 a year in several years being phased in, that sort of thing. So I want to get your reaction to this. I mean, I would think this would be a good start for teachers across the state of Tennessee.
It's always a good start to raise starting salaries. A couple of things that we want to focus on, not only starting salaries, but we have to focus on salaries of educators throughout their profession, because if we raise the starting salaries, we may be able to attract more educators into the profession. But what happens is if they stagnate and don't keep up with inflation, that we then lose them. We don't retain those educators, because when those young people decide they're ready to start a family or buy a house, they find, or are living under crushing student loan debt, they find that they cannot do that, and then they leave the profession. And so we have to address it across the board. We also heard from teachers. I certainly have talked with our teachers there in Tennessee, that in addition to salaries, they actually have to address the issue of respect. And for our educators, for them, respect looks like professional pay. It also looks like them having the professional authority and autonomy to make good teaching and learning decisions for their students. It also looks like, as a collective group, they have the ability through organized voices to advocate on behalf of their students and on behalf of their colleagues. And so those are some of the issues that are very troubling in Tennessee and that we are focused on, so that we not only raise salaries, good start, but that we have the ability to continue to pay our educators what they need and they deserve, so they stay in the profession, and we're able to address the needs of our students through our collective voice.
Ms. Pringle, you mentioned inflation several times, and it's been well documented that our sky-high inflation, some of the highest we've seen in 40 years, is a problem. And it's not just teachers. I mean, it's across the board. It's my industry. It's other industries. And I don't think anyone forecasted salaries or rather inflation to be that high. And I know that there are a lot of industries that just haven't been able to compete with inflation right now. They're trying. And certainly they're trying to reassess kind of where, the salary should be with regards to the inflation that we're dealing with, which again is sky high. I'm trying to figure out what is the best median, because we all have that wish list of what needs to be addressed. But then again, it's like we got to come to a compromise and figure things out. We have the teachers' salaries that have been raised in Tennessee, but where can we find common ground with everybody?
We know that in America, our public schools are the foundation of this democracy. And we know the important role that they play in the education of our students and their ability to go on to college and career and to be the leaders of a just society we want them to be. They can be healthy and happy, and they can have careers that not only fulfill them, but also that help them to take care of their own families. So we understand the important role that public education plays in our society, and therefore we understand the important role that educators play. And so when we think about priorities, we know that addressing the educator shortage in this country absolutely must be a priority, because when we say every student needs and deserves the resources and support so they can live and they can grow and thrive, we have to actually mean every. For decades, we have disinvested in our public schools. That necessarily means that our educators' salaries have been impacted for years. So inflation today is not just impacting those educators today, but it has been impacting them for a long, long time. This society, Tennessee and states across this country must address this issue. I've called it a 5-alarm crisis. That's what it is. Our students deserve better.
Okay, the president of the National Education Association, Becky Pringle, we really appreciate you joining us on the Digital Desk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk, and I want to tell you about this nonprofit that is dedicated to helping foster children that's making its way to the Memphis area, and I think it's going to do some incredible work. I'm so excited to talk to you about this more. We have Virginia Roberts that's joining us now with Isaiah 117 House. Good morning, Virginia. How you doing?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad to be talking with you. I think this is a great topic, and I think that the work that this nonprofit is going to bring to Memphis is going to be incredible. I've done several stories in the past with children that have been in the foster care system and aged out, and they always talked about the foster care system being broken in so many ways. I think that what this nonprofit is going to do here in the Memphis area is going to be great. So let's talk a little bit more about Isaiah 117 House and what it's all about.
Great. So the Isaiah 117 House actually began in the heart of Rhonda Paulson back in 2014. She and her husband in Elizabethton, Tennessee started their foster care classes to become a foster parent. And one of those classes involves going to a DCS office and kind of seeing what the process looks like. And at that time, they found out that children, often when they're removed from their home, go to wait a placement in the DCS office, which feels a lot like the DMV. It was never intended for children. And post-COVID, things take a lot longer for the placements. There's fewer foster families and such. And so at that time, she just said, what if there was a home where the children could come rather than going to a DCS office to sit and wait, that they could go to a house where there would be volunteers there who is their job to lavishly love on these children. They'd be offered a bubble bath or a hot shower, home cooked meals. They could play outside with volunteers, all while the caseworker gets to have a private office where they can make those phone calls for the placements and just find the right placement. The volunteer gets to help take care of the child, lighten the load of the caseworker. And then when they do find a placement, we help ease that transition for the foster child and the family by helping provide them with whatever they need, car seats, formula, clothes. And so it just really changes the way that foster care begins.
And I think that's so important because, like you said, the DHS, it was not set up for a kid to be sitting in there, and just the emotional and the trauma that those children are already experiencing. So having something like this is great. And I love that this started in Elizabethton, Tennessee. My dad actually grew up in Elizabethton, Tennessee, small world. But you know, I know that this is something that you're passionate about. Can you share a little bit about your story?
Sure, I would love to. So our family began our foster care journey about 7 years ago, and we sat in the same classes to become a foster family. And I can remember thinking about what removal day might look like for a child. And at that time, I was imagining a child being rescued from a bad situation, immediately taken to a loving foster home where they would just automatically feel safe and all would be well. But after 7 years, I've tragically realized that is not removal day. Removal day is a child's worst day. It's a day where they have a stranger that comes into their home, says, you need to come with me. Here's a bag to pack some of your things. There's a lot of maybe chaos in the house. They're being taken away from everything they've ever known, their mom, their pets, maybe their favorite blanket that they forgot, and all of the shuffle. And then they're taken to a place that was never intended for children to wait. So after we finished our foster care classes, we've had many placements and people through our house, or children through our house. And in November of 2020, we actually adopted our youngest son, Josiah, through foster care. And so at that time, we had 5 kids, 9 and under. And I can remember our caseworker, she started to write the paperwork to close our home. And we said, no, just wait, we know the numbers, we know the need. At this time, there's over 1,200 children in foster care just in Shelby County. That's more than double the next county in Tennessee. And so we said, no, we've got more room in our heart, more room in our home, even though our septic system would probably tell you differently. And so we said, we can take a teen girl, because there's a huge need for foster families to take teenagers. So it wasn't long before we got a phone call, not for 1 girl, but for 2 teen girls. And when they call you for a placement, they only tell you what you need to know. So we didn't know that me and Trinity had spent 7 long days bouncing between a DCS office and emergency respite placement so that they would have a place to rest their head that night. We didn't know that they had spent 7 days hearing rejection call after rejection call, just feeling unloved and unwanted. And so we also didn't know that we were the very last call that they were making before they split the sisters up and started back at the top of the list. So thankfully we said yes. That day they came into our home, and a short 6 months later, they became a part of our forever family. We adopted them as well. So now we have 7 children, 3 that have gone through the foster care system that we've adopted. So it's very close to our heart. It's would have changed their story a lot if there would have been a home that they could have gone to.
Yeah, and I love that you brought in both of the sisters where they didn't have to get split up. I had a meteorologist that worked with me when I was in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and he went through the adoption process, and he was initially going to adopt 1 child, but then it was going to be separating 2 sisters, so he took in both. And so you find that happens a lot. You know, I told you I was doing stories about, you know, working with children that had aged out and they were separated from their siblings and then trying to find their siblings again. So, you know, it was great that you were able to do that. And did you always feel like that adoption and fostering was something that you were interested in doing?
When my husband and I were actually dating forever ago, it was always kind of a conversation that we felt like adoption was going to be a part of our family. And then when we started to want to have a family, we were looking at private domestic adoption. We did some things through Life Choices. But then as we were having children, we kind of transitioned away from that because private adoption can be very expensive. And so that's when we kind of looked into foster care, and we were an open home with Tennessee Baptist Children's Home. And we, at that point, after we'd taken the classes, and like I said, we knew the numbers and the need, our hearts were just broken. And we said, whether this ends in adoption or not, this is what we're called to do.
And I know you, at one point we talked about just trying to find those foster homes. Is there a lack of people that are being a part of that foster care system? I know you were mentioning 1,200 kids right here in Shelby County. I mean, that's just devastating to think about in itself. What message would you send to those who maybe have thought about being a foster parent, and just how great this need is?
Yeah, there's a huge need. They're always having the classes. It's an 8-week class called Tennessee Key. The first one is completely informational that you can just go to. There's no commitment. You can hear about what the needs are in our county and kind of what it might look like. And so I would encourage anyone, Tennessee Baptist Children's Homes are always having them. And then Department of Children's Services has them, I think, every month. So if you could go on the website and check it out and just find out more, even if you're interested. And there's other ways to get involved. Not everyone's called to be a foster parent, but that is a huge need right now for sure.
And I think it's great that Isaiah 117 House is coming here in Memphis. I know they have locations in other parts of the state. This is the first here in West Tennessee, and they're also based in other states as well. And like you said, the need with so many kids in that foster care system, this is going to be a great bridge for them to be able to have that smoother transition, even though they're dealing with that traumatic experience in itself. I know that there's going to be a kickoff event that's going to be coming up towards the end of the month. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yes, we would love for anyone who's interested in being a part of the Isaiah 117 House. There's so many opportunities to get involved at every level, to come to the kickoff event that we're having this coming Sunday, April 30th. It's at 3 o'clock at Harding Academy. And Rhonda Paulson, the founder and director, is going to be there to be speaking and just sharing the mission and the vision and finding out how to get involved.
And let's talk about where this location is, where y'all are going to be located.
Currently, we don't have a house yet. So after we kick off, once the community once we launch our awareness campaign and a lot of people know that there's a need, then we're looking for land. We're looking for donated houses that we can a lot of the houses have been remodeled. Some of them are new builds on land. And so just asking for people to help connect us. We're actually going to have 2 houses in Shelby County starting out, which is exciting. We definitely want to stay closer to the downtown, midtown area because that's where the DCS office is in 40 South Main. So we'd like to have a closer access to that. So yeah, we'd love any leads that anyone has on that.
Yeah, is there a website that's been set up yet, or where an email address where people can, if they're watching right now, we have thousands of people that watch us on our stream. Is there a way that they can connect with you guys if they say, hey, I want to get involved with this and the work y'all are doing?
Absolutely. We have a Facebook and Instagram account. If you put in Isaiah 117 House, Shelby County, Tennessee, you can find us there, or you can email at shelbytn@isaiah117house.com.
Virginia, this has been a great conversation, and I'm so excited about this. Is there anything else you feel like we missed that you want to make sure we hit on before we let you go?
After we kick off on Sunday, we're going to be having monthly expansion meetings where anyone from the community can come and join our team and help just get this off the ground. We would love help spreading the awareness of our event and just opportunities to help.
Well, Virginia, I really appreciate you joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk, and good luck with the kickoff event and just all the excitement headed your way over the next couple months with this new venture.
Thank you.
All right, Amanda Hansen here at the Digital Desk. I want to tell you about an upcoming event, Child Abuse Awareness 2023. It's happening Sunday, April 30th at 3 p.m. And joining me live on the Digital Desk this morning, Barbara Love. Good morning, Barbara. How you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to have you on and talking about this upcoming event. I know this is being put on by the Love Foundation. Can you tell us a little bit about the Love Foundation and the mission?
Sure. The Love Foundation is a organization that provides love and care for women and children that have been through domestic violence and sexual abuse. We service people through the city, and we like to talk, share, show them love, and let them know they're not alone.
And I believe we maybe talked to you last year. I think you put on a similar event last year. Can you talk about why this mission and this organization is just so important for you?
Well, first and foremost, children are our future, for one, and they didn't ask to be here. But me being myself being sexually assaulted as a child, living through a parent that was supposed to be my protector ended up being my predator. Like many kids, they're living a life of not being able to tell. And for me, I want to make awareness where they understand that it is people that is just like them, and they are people that care. And I want to make sure that if nobody else get the awareness, I can let them know that I am here for them.
You're taking that pain and using it for a purpose, and I think that's incredible.
Absolutely. I'm using it as a platform.
Absolutely, and being able to share your story makes people connect with you even more that maybe have experienced something like that. I do want to talk about the event, though, because obviously it's all about awareness, and it's coming up April 30th. Tell us more about it.
It is. This event is it's bringing knowledge and bringing awareness to the community, and one of the biggest thing is that we have people from all over the community that is getting involved. We have dance teams like Elite Fire Rest, GHS, Prancing Tigerettes, Dance Divas. We have Star Steppers. We have teams and speakers that want to come out and want to help in this event because this feels so close to their heart, and they want to be able to have an opportunity to give back to the community, and also to let them know that they're not alone as well. So this event is very dear to each and every one of us, and I'm just thankful that they're actually coming out to be able to help with this event.
And I know you have here on the flyer just some of the speakers that are going to be there. Can you talk a little bit about them?
Yeah, so Sir Kilo is a motivational speaker. He speaks to kids all over the world. He talks to them about being, about self-love, knowing your worth, knowing that you can grow, you can be better than what anybody says you can be. Because anybody knows that normally when you are having abuse, a lot of times people say you're not going to be anybody, you're not going to make yourself, you're not going to be anybody, or you're not going to make yourself better than you were. So with Sir Kilo, he gives you that motivational where you are somebody. And so that's why I chose him to be a part of this event, because I know that he makes a difference already in the community. And I know that the kids will gravitate to him and understand exactly where he's coming from.
Absolutely, and I love it. It looks like there's going to be all kinds of stuff, the free ice cream, the bouncers. I like the idea of a TikTok dance area. I think that's a lot of fun, and so it just sounds like it's going to be a great event. And obviously there is a mission here that you're hoping to accomplish. Can you talk about that?
Right. The mission to accomplish is to build relationships with the people in our community, stand in as a gap, to where they don't have to worry about nobody's being there for them. And also to let them know that this is a non-judgmental event. It's a non-judgmental thing that we're doing for the community. And we want them to know that we are here for them at all costs, And we want to show them love.
So I know obviously y'all have done events like this before. How was the turnout at those, and what kind of response do you get from people in the community when you host these?
Well, the turnout we normally get a great turnout. Normally people, when they come out, they may not speak at that moment when the event is going on, but it's always the after fact. They always call, they text, they go to the social media page. And they just, give me all this information, and they want to be a part, and they want the help. They just don't want to say the help, in person. So it's a great help for the community. It's a lot of people that's hurting. They want to get help, and they want to heal.
Absolutely, and it's great that you are someone that's stepped up to the plate to be able to help to be that resource for people. Barbara, anything else you want to mention? I know you also were talking about the Facebook page. Where can people go to maybe find out more about the event and your organization?
They can go to the Love Foundation Inc. Facebook page. Also, I want to let them know that Love Foundation wants to raise awareness, which makes people cautious about the problem and the issues that are going on in our community. And our goal is to make people understand that the importance is to support it and address it. It's no more secrets. Let's tell and let's get it addressed.
Well, Barbara Love, I really appreciate you taking time to join us here on the Digital Desk. And I know the event is going to be a success, and I know you're going to reach a lot of people. So I appreciate you. You have a good morning, all right?
All right. Thank you so very much.
All right. Well, a gorgeous morning. A live look from our High Five camera here in Midtown Memphis. We're going to touch base with Spencer Denton a little bit later on, get an update on the forecast. Some people could see some rain today, so you might want to pack that raincoat. He'll break it all out for you in just a little bit. Right now, though, I want to talk about a topic and get to a topic that I think a lot of people worry about when we're dealing with inflation and the cost of everything going up, and that's debt. And it can have quite the toll on your mental health. Let's get to this interview. Well, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and with 80% of Americans in debt amid inflation and rising interest rates, one of the biggest factors impacting our mental health is financial debt. So joining us to discuss more about that is licensed clinical psychologist and National Debt Relief Financial Wellness Board member, Dr. Razeen Moradian. Good morning. Thank you for taking some time to share some information with us. How are you doing?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You know, so often you hear about the financial damage that is causing debt, but no one really talks and touches on your mental health and how it's impacting that and the implications of what debt can cause. So can you talk a little bit more about the emotional toll that debt can have on people and how damaging it can be?
So, you know, just in general, being in debt is very overwhelming and people feel as if they have lost control of their lives. And in fact, a survey by National Debt Relief found that about 69% of respondents said being in debt has made them withdraw from the things that they love. And about 70% feel like a black cloud hanging over them when they're in debt. So certainly this loss of control really triggers fear of the unknown and embarrassment. And this heavy burden of debt can also make a person feel very trapped and isolated from others.
You know, what actions can people take to be able to support their mental health while struggling with debt? Because right now it just seems like people are more burdened with debt than ever with everything we're experiencing in the world right now. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, one of the first things you want to do is to establish a plan. And that's really vital in gaining control back over your life. And that's where resources like National Debt Relief can really help. They are the leading debt relief organization that has helped over 450,000 people settle their debt while really empowering them to lead a healthier financial lifestyle. So what happens is their team will work with people to guide them on the path to becoming debt-free and support in developing a plan to financial independence. Now, once that plan is established, their team will then negotiate with creditors to lower the total amount of debt owed. And this type of support and feeling really gives a person control back into their life. They can breathe again, and they feel finally some financial and mental health freedom, which empowers them to feel free and live again.
Absolutely. So why is self-care so important during challenging times? And what are some ways that people can really practice that self-care to make sure that they are staying healthy while still trying to manage a budget and deal with the debt that maybe they're experiencing right now?
Yes, so practicing self-care, no matter what type of challenge you're facing, is really key to maintaining good mental health. And a few self-care tips can be practicing one activity that you like to do daily, and that could be anything from exercising to reading to talking to a friend that you trust. Also practicing shifting your mindset from a negative thought into a positive one. So when we talk about finances and debt, you could say to yourself, well, if you're saying I'm in debt, shifting it to a positive and saying I have a plan to get out of debt. And also one of my favorites, creating a self-care emergency kit, which you can have on handy when you need it, which can include a notepad with pen, a list of movies that you like, a stress ball, whatever you like that makes you feel good.
I really like that idea. So what are some ways people can feel supported by others while they're experiencing this debt?
So I always encourage open communication to avoid feelings of isolation. So whether it's with your partner, your spouse, your family, or friends, because when we tend to stay silent with a lot of these issues, they tend to build up internally, and that can cause further stressors when it comes to either relationships or your social life. Secondly, when debt feels insurmountable and you don't really know where to start, turn to professionals. And I think of National Debt Relief as an encouraging coach because they really empower people to take control of their finances and help them establish sustainable habits that help them stay out of debt.
Well, a lot of good information. Where can people go if they want to get more resources like this or find out more? Can you share where they can go?
Yes, they can go to nationaldebtrelief.com or they can call 1-800-927-6955 for a free consultation.
Well, Doctor, I appreciate you taking some time to join us this morning. Any last remarks you want to make before we let you go about the importance of this month and making sure you're not just taking care of your physical health, but your mental health as well?
Yeah, so really important. I really want to emphasize just the self-care, maybe saying one grateful thing, and doing one thing that you love for yourself every day and taking it one day at a time.
Well, Doctor, I appreciate your time. You have a great rest of your morning, all right?
All right. Thank you. You too. Thank you for having me.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. Taking a live look from our High 5 camera in Midtown Memphis. You can see some cloud cover there, but it's still relatively mild out there, 55 degrees as you get up on this Wednesday morning. We had some showers overnight, and there is the possibility of another shower later today. But then again, there might not be any at all. We got meteorologist Spencer Denton breaking down the forecast for the next 7 days.
Hey, I'm Action News 5 meteorologist Spencer Denton. As we go through the rest of your Wednesday, we're expecting some isolated showers, especially to the south of Memphis. Not everybody will get wet today, and there may even be a little bit of sunshine out there at times, but a few showers can't be ruled out through 4 o'clock. As we go into the evening hours, mostly dry, some clouds, but then the big rain event comes in late tonight into tomorrow morning, and it could be heavy. We could even see some thunderstorms with this as we go through early tomorrow morning, with temperatures holding in the 50s to low 60s. None of this should be severe, but then we dry out and warm up quickly tomorrow afternoon. In fact, looking at highs in the mid to upper 70s, that could fuel another line of storms that comes in along the main cold front as we go into tomorrow evening. So we'll have to watch. A couple of these could be on the strong side with some wind or hail. So we'll keep you posted on that. Then as we go into Friday, it looks like mainly dry with temperatures ranging from the mid 60s to the low 70s. Here's a look at how much rain is going to fall, 1 to 2 inches. This is mainly for tomorrow night into portions of Friday morning. And again, we're looking at those temperatures holding in the 60s for many areas, but some areas could briefly hit the low 70s. For today, a 30% chance of a shower. And if you're heading down to the Grizz game tonight, looks like if you're going to be out on the plaza or out on Beale before the game, temperatures in the upper 60s. Take an umbrella just in case we have a downpour or two out there. But again, it's a very small chance as of right now. The rain will come in late tonight, though. 80% chance of rain and some thunder. Check out the First Alert 7-day forecast. Morning rain gives way to sun, then another round of rain and storms Thursday night. Dry Friday. The weekend looks mostly dry. There could be a couple of showers here or there with another front coming through, and it looks dry to start next week with highs near 70.
There is growing concern for the safety of Lyft drivers, and this comes, it's a renewed concern, but this comes after a Memphis driver was robbed and carjacked at gunpoint. And this is a Lyft driver, you know, the ride-sharing app Lyft. And investigators have arrested an 18-year-old who has been charged with a slew of crimes as a result of all of this. We have Action News 5's Walter Murphy with more on what happened and reaction.
Never had any instance where I feared for my life, ever.
But when this woman, who didn't want to be identified, signed on to drive for Lyft Sunday night, which she's been doing since 2017, all of that changed. Memphis police say that 18-year-old Tyrus Ernest pulled a gun on the driver, demanded she send $100 to his Cash App account, and then cocked the handgun, told her to get out of her car before zooming off in her vehicle and leaving her stranded and terrified in South Memphis.
Thank God I'm still here, but I feel like maybe it replays in my head constantly. I hear his voice constantly in my head, and I think even when I get my car back, I think I'm done at this point.
Her car was recovered by Memphis police, but she has no plans to go back to the rideshare business after her nightmare. But we're curious about what other Lyft drivers' experiences were in Memphis, so I decided to order a ride myself. And that's when we met Timothy Moore, who's been driving for Lyft for over 4 years. And even though he's never been threatened, he says he never lets his guard down.
It's checking every mirror 2 or 3 times. It's understanding where you are, you know, what part of, you know, what part of the city you're in, what time of night or time of day you're driving.
That same advice is what Memphis police say you should do as well. Even though they say this type of incident is rare for rideshare drivers in the Bluff City, Moore says he isn't taking his chances.
License to carry a firearm, so I do. And again, I would do that going to the grocery store. I would do that going to the corner store, the gas station.
All right, well, graduation season is upon us, and whether it's high school graduation and maybe wanting to further your education or enter the workforce, or college graduates accepting a new job, financial decisions can be so stressful, and just trying to navigate through that can be very difficult. So joining us to talk a little bit more about it is Ashley Feinstein-Gerstley. She's the author of Financial Adulting, Everything You Need to Know to Be a Financially Confident and Conscious Adult. Ashley, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
So I guess the first thing I want to do is just dive right in. Let's talk about maybe what are some of the biggest mistakes or things that these young adults, whether it's 18 into your early 20s, where maybe they're making mistakes financially. What would you say is probably some of the biggest problems or things that they just don't know about?
Yes, I'd say two big things. The first, and I did both of these things, so it's coming from experience, is to wait to save until we have enough money to save. So there's this idea, and how we traditionally view saving is we earn money, we live our lives, we pay everybody else, and then we hope and wait that there will be money left over to save. And in my experience, that just doesn't work for most people. Even when we get a raise, there's still not money. So I would say pay ourselves first, pay yourself first is something that I would highly, highly recommend. And then the other is not having a plan. And I know that budgets get a bad rap. We think they might be restricting, they might limit our fun, but I view them as an act of self-love, because when we have a budget, we have a plan, we have peace of mind, we can build in things that are fun and have no guilt as we spend them, and just have clarity about where our money is going and reach our financial goals. So I would say not having a plan and waiting to save until we make more money are the two biggest mistakes that I see.
And when you talk about saving, is there a certain rule of thumb when you say you want to maybe save back this percentage of the money you're bringing in, or does it just depend on each individual's budget and what kind of money they're bringing in? What advice would you have for that?
Yes, so I would say it does depend. I am not a big fan of having a certain percentage as far as saving and investing and retirement, but I would say first and foremost, you want to have that crisis fund saved up. So that first $1,000, that first 1 month of expenses, and then from there building up to have a fully funded rainy day fund. So in case something happens with an illness or with our job, that we have money to pay for our expenses for 3 months, 6 months, depending on your personal situation.
And this is just a question for me, because I think way back, back in the day, a lot of people would have their checkbook, and they would go in, and every time they would write a check, they would go in, they'd balance their checkbook. They had an idea of the money that was coming in, coming out. Do you feel like that now people really aren't using that checkbook, and it's harder to maybe keep up with the money you're spending? Do you feel like that?
Yeah, I think technology has done some great things, but it makes it very easy to have no idea where our money is going. Even if you think about checkbooks are a great example, credit cards, we don't feel the pain of what we spent until the bill goes through. Swiping our credit card, hopping in and out of a Lyft, we're not even really paying. So I think I'm a huge fan of having what I call money parties, which are time that we set aside to look at what's happened with our money over the last month or the last week. So actually go through and look at those expenses, because it is so easy to lose track of them. And I've had that experience where you see the credit card bill and you say, that wasn't me, but then you go through each and every expense and you realize, these things just add up. So having that time, if we don't look at our expenses, it's just not going to happen. And we need to carve out that time for ourselves.
Do you feel like that generation, you just get out of high school or you're coming out of college, that little group right there, a lot of times they're finally getting out of the house, they're starting to support themselves. Do you think that some of the biggest mistakes start off with credit cards, and maybe every time you go to a store and they say, well, you get 20% off if you apply for a credit card? Do you feel like that this generation can sometimes fall victim to that when it comes to credit cards? What are some of the biggest mistakes?
Yes. So I actually was one of the people who had that happen to me, and I didn't even understand how credit cards worked. I remember by the time I paid my bill, I had so many late fees. And so I do think there's this idea that it actually is something that I wish I knew when I graduated from school, that most people, we don't learn about this. And I'm seeing it more and more being taught in schools, which is wonderful. And I know parents want to be sharing this information with their kids, but they might not feel like they're equipped to do so. And so I do think there's this feeling when we graduate that we're the only ones who don't understand, and there can feel this like taboo of talking about it and asking questions. And what I've found is that most of us don't understand, and we're all learning as we go, and we're learning the hard way. And so I do think that that helps to feel less alone as we navigate this. But then also, yes, to really, I think there's a lot working against us when it comes to personal finance, and that we're not educated about it. There's like with the credit card, there's probably 50 pages of small print that I could have read to understand it. So I would definitely caution to really understand any financial products that we sign up for. Talk to people about it, because if they don't understand and you don't understand, you might be able to find someone else, or to go and figure it out together can feel less lonely as we navigate this.
I remember when I was in college, starting in college, credit card companies, they actually would set up booths on campus, and they would you would end up getting a credit card, and it would have this incredibly high interest rate, but you weren't educated on what to even look for, what to consider. So I mean, I can see how credit cards can really get people into trouble. I do want to switch gears though. Student loans. When a lot of people rely on student loans to be able to go to school, what kind of advice would you give when people start looking to see how much they need to be borrowing? Because they do have to pay that back at some point.
Yes, so when we're going to, there's actually a chapter in the book dedicated to debt. So understanding credit cards, understanding student loans. And I think when we think about financing college, there are a lot of pieces that fund the pie. So there could be grants, there could be financial aid, there could be federal loans, there could be private loans. But at the beginning, when we're trying to figure out how much to take out, ideally we can minimize that pie. And in interviewing some experts on student loans for the book, I found that people actually can negotiate with their universities on what they're able to help them provide. In the worst case, that they say no, but then you're able to take out less debt, and then also to shop around with those private loans, just because we might think that that first offer we get is the best offer that we're going to get, but actually the offers can vary as far as interest rates. And when we're talking about numbers that are that big, it can make a huge difference if we're paying a 6% interest rate or an 8% interest rate or a 4% interest rate on our student loan. So I would say try to reduce the amount as much as possible, and then shop around for the best rate on those private loans.
Good advice. Now, for those that are maybe graduating college, they're getting into the workforce, what are the biggest pieces of advice that you would want to send to them as far as their finances go?
I'd say the biggest, so first, again, just you're not alone in figuring this out, and financial adulting, so that is the name of my new book. Being a financial adult is about taking small, consistent steps. And so I think sometimes with a lot of different goals, but specifically our finances, we view improving in that area that it has to be this overnight transformation, that I wake up, I spend the whole weekend making my financial plan, and I'm a new person. But that sets us up for failure because it's too much of a jump. And so taking small, consistent steps that are manageable, that feel like we can keep improving, I think is the way to go, because then we're improving and learning all year round. And then something that I wished that I did more of, and I know that so many looking back at the beginning of their careers wish they did, is start saving for retirement. Because when we're starting young, we have so much time to allow our money to grow and compound, and it just makes it so much easier on us later. And that money is coming out pre-tax, typically when it's a 401k, so it actually feels less painful than you'd expect. So I'd say, looking back, that's something that a lot of people that I talk to wish they put more aside for retirement and let it grow for them.
And we've talked so much here at the Digital Desk about debt and what debt can do as far as your mental health and various other things that it can do. Do you feel, I love the name of the financial adulting. I love that. But do you feel like that one reason you decided to put this book together is because a lot of times people build up that debt while they're young, and then after they get out of college, they've built up all this debt as they're starting their new job. Do you feel like a lot of that debt ends up getting built up early on in life, and then you're just spending time trying to pay it back?
Definitely is a big part of stress in the younger generation, and something you mentioned about the booths during college and getting a free t-shirt and having, understanding that when we're paying that minimum payment, it isn't actually potentially making any dent in the balance, and our credit card could still be growing. So there's so much there. And I do think there's so much shame. First of all, there's a lot of stress around debt, especially when we're starting our careers and we might not have a lot of extra income to go towards those debt payments. payments, but then also just the shame that comes with debt. And so I first love to talk, in the book, I talk about what debt is. And it's really just money we owe for something we bought. It doesn't mean we're bad or that we did something wrong, or it could be a certain time in our life. It could be a mistake we made. But from there, really, I think sometimes when we have so much shame around the debt, it has us even not look at it. So I take everyone through a 3-step process to make a plan to manage and pay down debt by starting with looking at what it actually is. And that can be as stressful as that sounds to list out all that information. It can be really eye-opening. And then once we know what's happening, we can make a plan to manage it. So always better to have that information than to not look.
And educating yourself about what you need to know is so important. And you were mentioning about paying that minimum. I had a friend that during that age time between 18, early 20s, she got a bunch of credit cards and she told me, she's like, just pay the minimum payment. And I'm like, this is terrible advice. I guess any final points you want to make before we let you go?
I go back to that taking small, consistent steps. And you mentioned earlier why I wrote this book. And because so many of the things that you're mentioning are things that I made mistakes with. And I studied finance, I worked in finance, and I still knew nothing about my own finances. And so this is something that we are not set up for. So we want to learn as much as we can. And my goal is in writing this book and in the work I do that others don't have to make the same mistakes that I did and can progress through their financial lives with a lot less stress and potentially heartache.
Well, Ashley Feinstein Gerstley, the author of Financial Adulting, Everything You Need to Know to Be a Financially Confident and Conscious Adult. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing some really great advice and some really good tips for our viewers this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Home sellers nationwide are coming off a record-breaking run that led to some of the lowest mortgage rates of all time, combined with some of the highest home prices they've ever seen. But 2023, a much different story. The U.S. housing market has been on a steady 12-month decline, resulting in some dropping home values, dramatically rising interest rates. What is the current state of real estate right now? Let's bring in Ryan Rogers. He's a real estate specialist out of Austin, Texas. He joins us on the digital desk. Ryan, give us the current state of real estate with regards to buyers and sellers. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me. So what I would tell them for buyers specifically is even though rates still may be up a little bit, prices still have come down or starting to flatten. So a year ago, if you were having to overpay, especially in our market, let's say $150,000 on a specific piece of property, and even though the rate was maybe 3.5%, you're maybe paying $150,000 less for that property today, but the rate is of course higher. So it all balances out in many situations. But all across the nation, we're still seeing, decreased buyer activity, and in many markets also increased seller activity. So it's different from market to market for sure.
So I'm still trying to understand exactly what, as a buyer and a seller, what you should do first and foremost if you're in the market right now.
So if you're in the market right now as a buyer, I would focus on a couple of things. Is you want to get pre-approved and understand what you're going to be, what your payment is going to be. Do that first, because that's number one, to have your ducks in a row, have your financing in order, and be ready to pull the trigger if you do have one, if you do see something that you like. I always recommend a buyer maybe go and look for a house that's been on the market for a while, maybe 30 days or 60 days, because in this market, no matter where you are, properties that have been on the market 30, 60, 90 days, you have a much better opportunity to get a better price because they've already been able to expose themselves to the marketplace and find out, are they overpriced? And so for the buyer, they can be they can be at a more advantage. It's been on the market 30, 60, 90 days. And go maybe look at those first instead of ones that have been on the market just a year or two, because it will be a more competitive situation. For sellers, my number one advice for sellers is don't price the house too high coming out of the gate. You want to price it very aggressively so that you get as many people through the property as quickly as possible. So be realistic when you set that value in today's market. Another thing that a seller needs to be aware of or ready for is if you have a good buyer with a reasonable offer, and they tend to hesitate a little bit, one thing that you can do is offer a rate buy down. So offering some closing cost assistance to maybe help them, instead of a 6.5% interest rate, maybe they can buy that rate down to maybe about 6%, let's say. And then the last thing for sellers is don't test the market by starting high and then continuing to decrease the price, because it'll get stale and it's not a good strategy.
Ryan Rogers, real estate specialist out of Austin, Texas. We appreciate the points, the finer points here, and some tips out there for buyers and sellers. Thanks very much. Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Did you know that more than 16 million Americans are diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, known as ADHD? It ranges from children, teens, to adults, and right now, there is a nationwide shortage of the medications used to treat ADHD. In fact, the FDA announced the shortage back in October, blaming manufacturing delays. But there are researchers and experts that say the shortage is more about an increase in demand. ADHD diagnoses have spiked significantly during the pandemic. Let's bring in someone to talk more about this issue. I'm joined now by Dr. Greg Mattingly, the Associate Clinical Professor of Washington University, physician as well. Good morning, doctor. Let's talk about, first off, I know what ADHD is, but for our audience and viewers, can you talk a little bit in layman's terms about what ADHD is and how common it has become? Good morning.
Good morning. So ADHD, is probably many of your listeners know, it's a common condition. Matter of fact, it's the most common neurologic condition in all of childhood, not just here in the United States, but all around the world. So here in the United States, but if I went to Canada, if I went to Europe, if I went over to Asia, it's 8 to 10% of kids meet criteria for ADHD. So it's a common condition. And one of the things that we have learned over the last 20 years is for most kids, it's not going to go away. If this is the way you're wired, 80 to 90% of kids are going to have that as they become teenagers, as they go off to university, as they start that first job, and as they become adults. Common symptoms are I get distracted, it's hard to focus, I get bored, and when I get bored, then everything kind of accelerates and I find myself getting frustrated. Maybe I get fidgety and restless. Maybe I blurt things out and I interrupt other people around me. So problems with disorganization, time management, frustration tolerance because of those things for our patients with ADHD.
You know, doctor, I have some family members that have ADHD, and it seems to affect them in different ways. And there is a difference, right? I mean, the symptoms are different for men and women, boys and girls, all across the spectrum.
100%. And that's why the answers are not going to be one size fit all answers either. So some people have ADHD and they have a lot of the hyperactivity when they're kids. Other people, it's a lot of disorganization. It's hard to concentrate. I get overwhelmed by things. I have a lot of anxiety because of that, and I get frustrated. Some of them have a hard time shutting their brain off at night. Falling asleep at night because my brain is still going can be a frustration for some of our patients with ADHD. And then some of our adults with ADHD can be problems around my temper. I get frustrated, I tend to blow. So how do you learn to modulate that as one of your symptoms that's a result of having ADHD?
So you are the president-elect of the American Professional Society of ADHD-related disorders. Can you talk about how ADHD is typically treated these days? I know everyone has the idea of medication, and there's different medications, right?
100%. So if there's good news for your listeners out there is we have a lot of different options. When I was first in practice 30 years ago, our options were just short-acting stimulants, and you had to take them multiple times a day. And a lot of people didn't like the side effects. They didn't like the way they felt when those things kind of kicked in and wore off. And we know those medicines, being short-acting Ritalin or Adderall, they can be misused or abused sometimes by people that are doing the wrong things. A lot of our newer treatment options are once daily medicines. You take them once a day, and they give you very low levels of medicine, just enough to help to improve your symptoms, but not so much that you're having as many of the unwanted side effects. So we have over 30 different treatment options right now that are approved for children with ADHD. A lot of those are also approved for adults. And we have 4 non-stimulants that are approved for ADHD, 2 of those that are approved for adults, atomoxetine and Qelbree. So it's not even always a stimulant option, and it's certainly not always a short-acting stimulant that you have to take multiple times a day.
Do patients grow out of this? I've always heard that, by the time, if someone in their teenage years, for example, is diagnosed with ADHD, can they grow out of that ADHD by the time they're in their mid to late 20s? How does that work?
Yeah. So one of the myths of ADHD is there's a couple of myths. Boys, not girls. You tend to grow out of it. Only take your medicine when you think you need it. We know those are all not the best outcomes. We know that boys are more common when they're young, but as you become an adult, women are equally common with ADHD. We know that for most people, you're not going to grow out of it. 80 to 90% are going to continue to have some set of symptoms as they go into adulthood. So learning how ADHD affects your life so you can have the most successful life possible, learning where there's a good fit for your symptoms. If I stick you behind a boring desk and make you do that job all day with ADHD, it's going to be hard. But if I give you a job that's a little more interesting, maybe you're interacting with people, maybe you're doing what you're doing, where you're giving interviews to people and staying active, that may be a better fit for someone with ADHD. So learning about your condition, telling your clinician, hey, here's where I see difficulties in my life. Maybe it's at home with my wife in the evenings where I get frustrated because I'm disorganized and I'm just overwhelmed.
When we introduced you to the digital desk, we talked about this nationwide shortage that was it was announced back in the fall of last year. Do we still have this shortage? And my understanding is that there are so many people being diagnosed. How did the pandemic have an impact on the diagnosis of ADHD?
100%. So during the pandemic, as we were all sitting at home doing our jobs virtually, our kids were having to learn at home virtually. If you had problems with concentration and being distracted, it came up to the forefront. Everybody could see it. So parents were looking at their kids saying, God, I know the teachers brought this up, but now I see it with my kids. I need to get them some help. Parents themselves looked at themselves and they said, God, I'm overwhelmed with this. I've always been wired this way, but in this current digital world, this is just overwhelming. So the rates of ADHD and people coming in for help did go up during the pandemic. Then we had a fixed supply of medications out there. And that supply is probably not going to go up, especially the supply of short-acting stimulants. So if you have increased demand with a fixed supply, that led to a nationwide shortage.
Has that shortage gotten any better? Where are we on that?
Yeah, unfortunately, it has not, especially with certain of them. Short-acting stimulants are in short supply all across the country. Here in Missouri, but if I went out to Washington, D.C., if I went to Baltimore, if I went to California, short-acting stimulants are in short supply, and they're probably going to stay that way. So that's made us all examine with our patients, are there other long-acting, once-daily treatments that may help to manage your symptoms, may even be a better fit for your symptoms, because those medicines do tend to have a better supply these days.
Let's talk about those different options because, if the shortage is going to stick around a while, let's talk about different treatments.
Of course. So I'll just give you a bunch of names you may want to think about with your clinician. And once again, this is a personal choice with you and your clinician. We have a long-acting amphetamine called Vyvanse that still tends to have pretty good supply, and there's an even longer-lasting one called Mydayis that has long supply. We have various versions of Concerta. Some of those are generic, some of them are not. Some of those are available, some are a little harder to get a hold of. And then we have some methylphenidates that come in a beaded formulation called Focalin or Metadate that tend to be available right now. We have 2 non-stimulants for adults that tend to be available, both atomoxetine and Qelbree. Both have pretty good supply all across the country. So I think those are some of the names you may think about. So we have shortages of some of the types of ADHD medicines, but we have other versions that are in pretty good supply.
You know, this has been an interesting interview, Doctor, and something that's revealing to so many out there. We have thousands of viewers each and every morning joining us here, and I know that either someone knows or has a friend or perhaps a family member with ADHD. Where can they go to get some more information on what we talked about and any other questions they may have?
I'll give you two resources. One is a group called CHAD, and CHAD makes a magazine once a month called Attitude. And CHAD is a group of patients that have ADHD that are advocates that put together these resources. So Attitude's a once a month magazine. In addition, APSARD, the organization that's a group of researchers, teachers, doctors, nurses, psychologists, apsard.org, has a lot of resources and can steer you in places to learn more about ADHD.
You know, this has been a great interview. Dr. Greg Mattingly, Associate Clinical Professor, Washington University, and we really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, you've been hearing from meteorologist Spencer Denton about how spring temperatures are here. It certainly feels like spring is sprung. Warmer weather comes opportunities, of course, to improve our health, but there are also a few risks for seniors out there. Join me now on the Action News 5 digital desk is Dr. Jana Robinson of Oak Street Health's Fraser Center in Memphis. And Dr. Robinson, good morning to you. There is a recent study I want to talk to you about. It found that among people 60 and over, the more steps they take, the lower their risk of cardiovascular disease. First off, what do you think of this study? And let's talk about the importance it is for seniors to keep moving.
Good morning, Andrew. This study is really another big supporter of exercise in general for seniors. People who exercise, regardless of their age or other medical conditions, live longer than those who don't. And this study shows even more benefit with lowering cardiovascular risk. This is a great thing.
It sounds like it. It really does. And the study goes on to say that there's all kinds of physical health benefits, of course, but it also helps with their mental health, overcoming social isolation that we all saw during the pandemic, depression, especially seasonal depression out there associated with being inside the winter months. Where are the risk factors when it comes to seniors, I guess, kind of getting out and about this spring and summer months? I guess some of it is just being a target for people who want to do not necessarily the best things, right?
Right. And our seniors are targets just like kind of anybody else can in areas where they feel unsafe. When my patients, who are all seniors, ask me what they should do if they feel unsafe, I tell them to walk in their home. Getting steps even inside their home can be helpful. However, there are additional benefits of being outside, like you mentioned. Things like walking in general increases the blood flow to the brain. Exercise helps strengthen the part of your brain called your hippocampus, which is part of the brain that helps with our verbal memory and learning. So while it's great to get outside and get some extra vitamin D and experience the sunshine, just being more physically active and taking more steps in a day also benefits them a great deal.
You know, I knew a lot of seniors, and I still do, that go to different areas, either businesses, malls, the Botanic Garden, the Lichterman Nature Center, just some place where they can get their steps. Those places sound like great spots. Where else can people get their steps? You mentioned their home, but where else do you recommend some of your patients get steps?
All of those are wonderful places. Our local YMCAs are great places. Lots and lots of our patients have the ability to join silver sneaker plans through their insurance plans, which is a great benefit for them. And several Memphis area gyms do participate in those programs where they can go and get steps and be safe and do that at the same time.
You know, obviously we were talking about, ways to make sure that they're safe, obviously in a safe environment so that they feel very comfortable walking. But what about some of those other suggestions, tips, ways to be safe while walking? I know hydration's an issue.
hydration can be an issue. Our older population is much more susceptible to dehydration. So making sure that you carry water with you and don't get overheated. If it's a particularly warm day, you want to try to go in the morning before it gets too hot, or later in the day as the heat wanes. So not walking during the middle of the day would be really, really important. You should, and always make sure to check the weather and make sure they're not going to get caught in a storm or things like that.
You know, we've talked about walking here. What other suggestions do you have for seniors out there? Maybe some other low-impact exercising, and some seniors that may have a problem just kind of, you know, walking, either a disability or otherwise.
Right. Our seniors, just like other populations, their physical ability varies from person to person. Chair exercises are fantastic. With the advent of the internet, there are lots and lots of chair exercise videos available. Tai Chi is another really, really great exercise that helps promote balance and is low impact, that can help folks do that. We actually have Tai Chi in some of our centers once a week. In our community rooms, which are free and open to the public.
Excellent, excellent. Dr. Robinson, is there anything else you want to mention before we let you go?
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to let everybody know how our seniors can exercise and stay safe. Also, like I said, walking around the house, if you're not in great exercise shape, try walking during your commercials. You'll get 7 minutes of exercise during a 30-minute show and 17 minutes of exercise during an hour show.
Great stuff as always. Dr. Jana Robinson, Oak Street Healthcare's Fraser Center. We appreciate you coming on the digital desk to talk about ways to get the seniors moving out there, especially in the spring and summer months. Jana, appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Hey, I'm Action News 5 meteorologist Spencer Denton. As we go through the rest of your Wednesday, we're expecting some isolated showers, especially to the south of Memphis. Not everybody will get wet today, and there may even be a little bit of sunshine out there at times, but a few showers can't be ruled out through 4 o'clock. As we go into the evening hours, mostly dry, some clouds, but then the big rain event comes in late tonight into tomorrow morning, and it could be heavy. We could even see some thunderstorms with this as we go through early tomorrow morning, with temperatures holding in the 50s to low 60s. None of this should be severe, but then we dry out and warm up quickly tomorrow afternoon. In fact, looking at highs in the mid to upper 70s, that could fuel another line of storms that comes in along the main cold front as we go into tomorrow evening. So we'll have to watch. A couple of these could be on the strong side with some wind or hail. So we'll keep you posted on that. Then as we go into Friday, it looks like mainly dry with temperatures ranging from the mid 60s to the low 70s. Here's a look at how much rain is going to fall, 1 to 2 inches. This is mainly for tomorrow night into portions of Friday morning. And again, we're looking at those temperatures holding in the 60s for many areas, but some areas could briefly hit the low 70s. For today, a 30% chance of a shower. And if you're heading down to the Grizz game tonight, looks like if you're going to be out on the plaza or out on Beale before the game, temperatures in the upper 60s. Take an umbrella just in case we have a downpour or two out there. But again, it's a very small chance as of right now. The rain will come in late tonight, though. 80% chance of rain and some thunder. Check out the First Alert 7-day forecast. Morning rain gives way to sun, then another round of rain and storms Thursday night. Dry Friday. The weekend looks mostly dry. There could be a couple of showers here or there with another front coming through, and it looks dry to start next week with highs near 70.
Okay, let's talk about April being Second Chance Month. And in the U.S., 2 out of 3 people who have been to prison are arrested again, and 50% of them end up back in prison. Let's talk to Brandeis Leverett. He is a program manager for Persevere. It's based out of Tennessee. Brandeis, first tell me what is Persevere, and tell me what some of the things that you encounter each and every day there. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Yes, Persevere is a national nonprofit. We actually operate out of 6 states, and we're looking to move into more states, but our biggest footprint is right here in Tennessee. So yes, we work with individuals who we like to call have been justice impacted or justice involved. And yes, we will teach coding and software development. Our participants have an opportunity within 6 months to a year to become certified full stack web developers. All of our programs are absolutely free. They come along with the equipment that's necessary. We offer wraparound services. We have support for transportation. Here in West Tennessee, we actually have transitional housing. So for individuals who we begin working with within the prison walls, once they're on a process of release, we have options and opportunities to continue to serve and help them make a better life for themselves, developing those skills to code.
That's fantastic. I understand you guys have only been around just a few short years since 2019. You're already in 6 states. I mean, it's growing pretty substantially at a really fast pace. I remember we talked to Stacy last time around. Tell me how you got involved.
Yeah, so yes, we're in 6 states, and since 2019, we've served about 800 participants. And then for me personally, I have a history and a career in education. And I tell people all the time, I was impacted on the other side of the wall. My father spent time in prison, and I watched the process of him being released and the struggle that he had to find gainful employment. So when this opportunity came, it was a no-brainer for me to jump on board the Persevere team. And I've really enjoyed the work that we do here.
You mentioned West Tennessee. It is significant in terms of where you are and helping people and how popular this program is. Can you just tell me a little more details of some of the outreach that you're doing in the West Tennessee, Memphis area?
Yeah, here in West Tennessee, again, we have our 2 programs. One is called Tech Alliance, and another one is called Families First. Tech Alliance actually serves the entire state. And then our Families First program, which is supported by the Department of Human Services, serves West Tennessee and all of its counties here in West Tennessee. And that program in particular not only works with adults, but it also works with students. It also works with young people between the ages of 9 and 18. Again, those services are provided for free. We offer career readiness, life skills support, and we have certified mental health counselors on staff who support the work that we do. And then when it comes to partners, we partner with a ton of organizations here in Shelby County and then across the state. So we got Knowledge Quest and Memphis Athletic Ministries, and we also work with the American Job Center almost hand in hand in some of the work that we do. And workforce development boards throughout the state support the work that we do. And of course, I can't help but to mention the Tennessee Department of Corrections.
So April is Second Chance Month. What do you want people, we have thousands of people that watch us on the digital desk here each and every morning. What do you want people to do with that knowledge that April is Second Chance Month?
Yeah, with April being Second Chance Month, and again, so many individuals are impacted by justice in this manner. I think one of the major things we want to do is we want to kind of beat back the stigmatism that comes along with that. When you get a chance to learn the stories of the individuals that have been justice impacted or justice involved, you can learn that, literally they made a bad choice at one moment in their life. And we believe that that shouldn't be a death sentence. That shouldn't keep them from opportunity after serving time and serving whatever that time, that should be, a barrier for the entire of their lives. We don't believe that should be the case. So in doing that, we also want continue to work with different partners. One of the things I didn't mention, but we have what we call technology employment specialists who go out and they work with employers to get employers involved in the process of what we're doing, to commit to say, hey, we're going to take on some of your graduates and participants to give them a chance. So that's ultimately what we would love for individuals to do, is to give individuals who've been justice impacted and justice involved a chance.
This morning, we talked about how crime is way up in Memphis and Shelby County this year already. A lot of it's juvenile crime. When you see stats like that, I know that I believe your organization helps juveniles. What happens with your kind of organization when there is an uptick in crime and there's a lot of juvenile crime? Is there any, I know you guys are focused on Second Chance, but is there any other kind of outreach or anything else that you guys deal with when it comes to this big spike in crime we're having, specifically juveniles?
Absolutely. There's a branch in belief in what we do about First Chance, right? To help individuals who have not yet been justice involved, but may be in environments in which that is all too common. So yes, we work with organizations throughout the county and state to offer young people an opportunity to be exposed to coding, to game development. We work with the individuals, a partner of ours is Epic Games. Those are the folks who are responsible for creating games like Fortnite. So we're able to work with them and introduce game development to our young people. Because again, for young people, it's about scratching that interest, beyond just traditional academics and education. And I think one of the biggest things that's really important, again, is that we can work with the entire family, moms, dads, aunts, uncles, and then young people within those families can come together and find a common knowledge and even a common language through coding and game development. So those are things that we do.
Where can people go for more information, Brandeis?
Yeah, so our website is perseverenow.org, or just go to Google and type in Persevere and you will find us. And then this week, in honor of Second Chance Month, we're working with the individuals at Center for Employment Opportunities, and we're going to have a resource fair with tons of employers right here in the city who are going to be at the Lester Community Center on Saturday morning, starting at 10 a.m. And we will have that resource fair there. There are going to be a ton of organizations and employers that are ready to interview and give people a chance.
Okay, Brandeis Leverett with Persevere. We really appreciate your time. Good luck with everything this month, throughout the year, and God bless you guys. You guys are doing some amazing work. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Home sellers nationwide are coming off a record-breaking run that led to some of the lowest mortgage rates of all time, combined with some of the highest home prices they've ever seen. But 2023, a much different story. The U.S. housing market has been on a steady 12-month decline, resulting in some dropping home values, dramatically rising interest rates. What is the current state of real estate right now? Let's bring in Ryan Rogers. He's a real estate specialist out of Austin, Texas. He joins us on the digital desk. Ryan, give us the current state of real estate with regards to buyers and sellers. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me. So what I would tell them for buyers specifically is, even though rates still may be up a little bit, prices still have come down or starting to flatten. So a year ago, if you were having to overpay, especially in our market, let's say $150,000 on a specific piece of property, and even though the rate was maybe 3.5%, you're maybe paying $150,000 less for that property today, but the rate is of course higher. So it all balances out in many situations. But all across the nation, we're still seeing, decreased buyer activity, and in many markets also increased seller activity. So it's different from market to market for sure.
So I'm still trying to understand exactly what, as a buyer and a seller, what you should do first and foremost if you're in the market right now.
So if you're in the market right now as a buyer, I would focus on a couple of things. Is you want to get pre-approved and understand what your payment is going to be. Do that first, because that's number one. To have your ducks in a row, have your financing in order, and be ready to pull the trigger if you do have one. If you do see something that you like. I always recommend a buyer maybe go and look for a house that's been on the market for a while, maybe 30 days or 60 days, because in this market, no matter where you are, properties that have been on the market 30, 60, 90 days, you have a much better opportunity to get a better price because they've already been able to expose themselves to the marketplace and find out, are they overpriced? And so for the buyer, they can be they can be at a more advantage. It's been on the market 30, 60, 90 days. And go maybe look at those first instead of ones that have been on the market just a year or two, because it will be a more competitive situation. For sellers, my number one advice for sellers is don't price the house too high coming out of the gate. You want to price it very aggressively so that you get as many people through the property as quickly as possible. So be realistic when you set that value in today's market. Another thing that a seller needs to be aware of or ready for is if you have a good buyer with a reasonable offer, and they tend to hesitate a little bit, one thing that you can do is offer a rate buy down. So offering some cost assistance to maybe help them, instead of a 6.5% interest rate, maybe they can buy that rate down to maybe about 6%, let's say. And then the last thing for sellers is don't test the market by starting high and then continuing to decrease the price, because it'll get stale and it's not a good strategy.
Ryan Rogers, real estate specialist out of Austin, Texas. We appreciate the points, the finer points here, and some tips out there for buyers and sellers. Thanks very much. 2/3 of women are in charge of health discussions for their families, yet often put their own needs last. Why is that? Well, let's bring in Faye McRae. She's Vice President and Head of Health Equity Social Impact Healthgrades. Faye, I appreciate you joining us. What is preventing women from committing to their yearly health checkups? Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. The leading cause of delayed or canceled appointments is cost concerns. 1 in 3 women say that high out-of-pocket expenses are a top reason that they've delayed, avoided, or even skipped medical care. But other common reasons really include convenience factors like forgetting to schedule your appointment or finding options that are convenient and fit within your schedule. And it really all boils down to women are the chief health officers of their homes. We're taking care of our kids, we're taking care of our spouses, we're taking care of parents, and we really put our own care on the back burner.
So women prioritize their children and family members over themselves when it comes to health care. How do you suggest healthcare providers market to women to, hey, don't forget about yourself?
Yeah, I think the first thing is making it easy. Options like online scheduling or even sending reminders to women, reminding them of when they need screenings or even when appointments are coming up makes it easier to be compliant with their healthcare needs. But I think also just making cost information more transparent. Folks want options. They want affordable options to make sure that they're really addressing their healthcare needs.
How did the pandemic, it feels like the pandemic has affected so much of our lives in so many different ways. How did it affect women's attitude towards making health appointments?
Yeah, although women's confidence in going to the doctor has returned to nearly pre-pandemic levels, we're still skipping those appointments. And nearly half of women are taking their healthcare more seriously, which is kind of a bright side that came after the pandemic. So doctors and healthcare systems really have an opportunity to engage women and motivate them to prioritize their healthcare needs.
Where can we go for more information on this and really kind of break the barrier so that women and that are in charge of the health decisions are actually able to do so and take care of their own health?
Yeah, I think, women need to step into your autonomy. Come visit us at healthgrades.com. We'll help you find a doctor. Healthgrades is structured so that we have reviews at the forefront of your search for providers. So you can really find out whether your doctors are compatible with you and your unique needs. They have experience with a specific condition or procedure that you're interested in learning more about, but also if they work at a high quality hospital. So come visit us at healthgrades.com and you can really find doctors that can meet those unique needs.
Faye McRae, I appreciate your time on the Digital Desk. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Did you know that any time throughout the year there are about 4,000 Mid-Southerners waiting for an organ donation? And April is Donate Life Month. Mid-South Transplant Foundation has been talking a lot with us about donations and organ transplants, the waiting list, Blue and Green Day in the Mid-South. That was back on April 14th. And I want to bring on right now Richard Edmondson. He is a heart recipient, lives out in Covington, and he joins us on the Action News 5 digital desk to talk more about his story and ways that we can all think about organ donation this time of year. Richard, I appreciate you joining us. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've had a heart transplant in 2016. I was dead for 30 minutes. And they shocked me 17 times to get me back. And it's people thought I wasn't gonna make it, and I did. And I'm here for a reason to share with people about how important it is to be an organ donor. Because it hadn't been for an organ donor, I would not be here today. And another thing we'd like to go ahead.
I was just going to say, how long were you on the waiting list? I know some people are on there for a year or longer. How long were you on there?
About 3 months. I was in the hospital for 3 months. And of course, it has the blue blood type. I had mine was A positive, so that's a good blood type to have when you're looking for organ transplant.
When was the transplant, and tell me how you're feeling now?
It was back on May 31st, 2016. It was exactly a year later because I had my Widowmaker heart attack on May 31st, 2015. So that was something extraordinary. And right now I'm doing pretty good. I have to watch everything and go to my transplant doctors regularly.
Wow. Well, what a story, Richard, and congratulations to you, and so glad you are here with us talking about this story. When you talk with people, because I know that my understanding is that you have been an ambassador with the Mid-South Transplant Foundation. When you talk to people about your story and with regards to organ donation, what do you say?
I just let them know how important it is, how many lives they can save. One person can save 8 lives. And then you got to get the word out there and let people know about it. Because before my heart attack, I did not know much about being an organ donor. And now you can save a lot of lives. And there's a lot of people out there waiting for transplants.
Do you know much about who donated the organ to you, the heart?
Yeah, he was, I got to meet the family. Derek Long was his name. He was 36 years old, and he got hit by a car. It was over in Arkansas. But their family, their daughter, wanted him to be an organ donor. And that's how it came about, me getting his heart.
Wow. And so you met the family, and tell me about that event. What was that like?
That was a special event. We had it down at Baptist East. They had a special time when I think it was about, I'm not sure how many families was there, meeting each other, and it's very, I don't know the exact word, it's
emotional?
I'm very emotional. We got to see the other family, got to talk with them. And we're still in contact with them, or on Facebook. I contact them, and we talk all the time now. They're part of the family. when you become an organ donor and you're able to meet them, they're part of your life now, and that's wonderful.
Thoughts for people out there? Do you ever, a lot of times when people get an organ donated to them, they have dreams, very vivid dreams about all kinds of things, including the organ donor. Have you had any dreams?
No, I really didn't have any dreams. I had a lot of memory loss in my case. So I don't have dreams about anything. I don't remember anything that went on.
I guess the best way that people can support organ donation in the Mid-South Transplant Foundation, Richard, is to just be an organ donor themselves, right?
Correct. We want to get the word out there to everybody to become an organ donor and save somebody's life. It's very special. You'll never know when you'll need it. And you touch a lot of people.
No question about it. What's the website where people can go and get some more information on that?
You can go to Mid-South transplantorganization.org.
MSTF.org? Is that what we're talking about? Mid-South Transplant Foundation?
Foundation.org.
Okay. All right.
You can get information at all the clerk's office, the driver's license centers. We put out pamphlets out there of how many people's need organ transplants and how you can sign up to be an organ donor.
All right, Richard Edmondson, we appreciate you sharing with us your story about being a heart recipient, and congratulations to you. Thank you so much for joining us, and all the best in the upcoming days, months, and years ahead.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. April is Head and Neck Cancer Awareness Month, and you may not know how to get screened here, or the probability of perhaps you and the chances of getting a cancer affiliated with your head area or your neck area. Joining me now to talk about this is Dr. John Gleistein. He's with Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare. John, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Doing well. Thank you.
Great, great. So let's talk a little bit about this Awareness Month, and why do you think it exists? Is there just people that just kind of not really know much about head and neck cancers, or is it kind of tough to diagnose? Explain.
Well, it's a good question. Head and neck cancers are something that can present in a variety of different ways. And some people, it's very obvious because they have a really sore spot on the tongue, or they are having a lot of difficulty swallowing. But in some people, it can be a lot more subtle. Sometimes they'll be shaving and they'll notice there's a new spot on their neck that they weren't aware of before. So there are a lot of different ways that these cancers can present, and it's important to be aware of them so that you can try and get checked out. The other thing is that there aren't great screening tests. It's not something that's going to show up on routine blood work. So being aware of the different signs and symptoms is something that can help you out a lot.
Wow. Okay. So are there any screenings at all, or you just have to watch out for the symptoms?
Yeah, the best thing you can do is, if you're concerned about something, is get it checked out. So sometimes these patients will come to us sent by their dentist who's cleaning their teeth, and they look in the mouth and see something that doesn't look right. Or maybe it's their dermatologist or their primary care doctor sees something on their regular exam that looks abnormal and sends them in. But a lot of times it's the patients themselves who realize something's different and they want to get it checked out.
I follow you. Okay, so when it comes to head and neck cancer, what parts of the body are included in that whole process?
So head and neck cancer is a subset of cancers that include the face, anywhere on the skin, inside the mouth, the throat, the voice box, the ears, and then all the salivary glands, the saliva-producing glands throughout the face and neck.
Okay, good to know there. So obviously it includes everything around the face. Let's talk now about the warning signs, because it sounds like that is something that's so important. What should people watch for?
So signs that could be worrisome are there's a new sore that's developed inside the mouth that doesn't go away quickly. You know, sores can pop up inside the mouth that are totally normal, but usually they will go away within 1 or 2 weeks. Something that's been there for longer is something that needs to get checked out. A sore throat that hasn't gone away, a change in your voice that hasn't gone away. In short periods, all these are normal findings, but when they last for a while, that's something to really be concerned about. And then, as I was saying earlier, a neck mass, if something pops up and there's a lump on your neck that wasn't there before, that's a concerning finding.
How common are head and neck cancers?
They're actually increasing in frequency. So it's a lot of different types of cancers in the country are going down in frequency. Head and neck cancer is rising. And so in the general population, it's not something that you see every day, but as a head and neck cancer specialist, I see new head and neck cancers almost every single day.
How curable is this cancer? I mean, what's the success rate? I mean, cancers go on all sides of the spectrum there. I mean, is it one that's got a good success rate?
That varies tremendously based off how early you catch it. So if you catch something that's just a small spot, that's something that's going to be very treatable. If it's something that you've been aware of these symptoms for a year, but you've been neglecting to go get it checked out, it could be a lot more serious and could be a lot more difficult to treat.
You mentioned it's growing. Why is it growing, you think?
Well, the specific type of cancer that's really growing is throat cancer caused by the HPV virus, the human papilloma virus. This is the same virus that causes cervical cancer in women. And it's the same virus that you are protecting against when you get your Gardasil vaccine as a teenager. And so that particular type of cancer is on the rise. And the good news about it is that it actually is more treatable than some of the other cancers that are associated with a long history of smoking and drinking, like many other head and neck cancers are.
So how can we prevent head and neck cancer, or can we prevent it at all?
Well, the biggest risk factors for head and neck cancer, number one by far is smoking. So if you're a smoker, quitting smoking is definitely the best thing you can do, not only for for your overall body health, but to reduce your risks of developing a head and neck cancer in the future. The other thing is with these cancers that are caused by the HPV virus, getting vaccinated against the HPV virus can help protect you from ever developing one in the first place.
Should we be performing self-exams on one another or each other, I guess?
Well, I think that being aware of what's going on inside of your mouth and what's going on in your neck are something that can be very helpful. Sometimes patients come in and they say, I was brushing my teeth and noticed this spot on the roof of my mouth that hadn't been there before. And, that's a way to potentially catch something early. And so if you just look in your mouth from time to time or feel your neck from time to time, and if something feels different to you, then go get it checked out. It may be nothing, but potentially you're catching something early that can really save you.
If someone notices a change in their voice, or they find a lump, or, as you mentioned, there's a spot, in their mouth that is unusual and they've never seen before, what should they do?
Well, usually the most common route is someone goes and sees their primary care doctor, and the primary care doctor will look at it and either say, oh, this is nothing, this is a benign spot or just a normal lymph node. But if they have any concern whatsoever, they'll send them on to a head and neck specialist such as myself and get them checked out for further exam.
Okay, so early prevention is key. Early detection, I should say, is key. Anything else you'd like to mention before we move on, Doctor?
Well, I think that being aware of your own health is something that's going to serve you well throughout your entire life. So whether it's trying to catch a cancer early or just trying to be aware of what your body's trying to tell you is important. So that combined with quitting smoking are definitely the two best things you can do to stay in good health and try to prevent head and neck cancers from ever developing.
Is there a place, doctor, where we can get some more information about head and neck cancers?
Yes, the American Head and Neck Society is a society that there are links to online that can give lots of information for patients. There are videos, there are educational materials, and so if there's something you're interested in learning more about, that's a great place to look.
All right, Dr. John Gleistein with Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare. We appreciate you telling us about head and neck cancers. Certainly, April is Head and Neck Cancer Awareness Month. Thanks so very much for bringing awareness to this issue.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, live pictures from Bentonville, Arkansas right now. We see former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson greeting supporters there as he is expected to make an announcement at any moment here that he is going to be running for president in 2024 and for the Republican nomination. Again, these are live pictures. As you can see, he's expected to make it to the podium at any moment here. He's meeting with various dignitaries there. He was the 46th governor in the state of Arkansas, two-term. He also began his public service under President Ronald Reagan, appointing him as the youngest U.S. attorney in the nation for the Western District of Arkansas. He was elected to the first of 3 terms in the House of Representatives, the Congress area, 1996. And then during his 3rd term, President George W. Bush appointed him to serve as administrator of the Drug Enforcement Administration. So he has a long history of public service, both nationally and both statewide throughout Arkansas. So anyway, these are live pictures here from Bentonville, Arkansas, where he is expected to make some comments at any moment. He is still meeting with supporters. While he does that, let's take another look at our forecast with meteorologist Spencer Denton.
Hey, I'm Action News 5 meteorologist Spencer Denton. As we go through the rest of your Wednesday, we're expecting some isolated showers, especially to the south of Memphis. Not everybody will get wet today, and there may even be a little bit of sunshine out there at times, but a few showers can't be ruled out through 4 o'clock. As we go into the evening hours, mostly dry, some clouds, but then the big rain event comes in late tonight into tomorrow morning, and it could be heavy. We could even see some thunderstorms with this as we go through early tomorrow morning, with temperatures holding in the 50s to low 60s. None of this should be severe, but then we dry out and warm up quickly tomorrow afternoon. In fact, looking at highs in the mid to upper 70s, that could fuel another line of storms that comes in along the main cold front as we go into tomorrow evening. So we'll have to watch. A couple of these could be on the strong side with some wind or hail. So we'll keep you posted on that. Then as we go into Friday, it looks like mainly dry with temperatures ranging from the mid 60s to the low 70s. Here's a look at how much rain is going to fall, 1 to 2 inches. This is mainly for tomorrow night into portions of Friday morning. And again, we're looking at those temperatures holding in the 60s for many areas, but some areas could briefly hit the low 70s. For today, a 30% chance of a shower. And if you're heading down to the Grizz game tonight, looks like if you're going to be out on the plaza or out on Beale before the game, temperatures in the upper 60s. Take an umbrella just in case we have a downpour or two out there. But again, it's a very small chance as of right now. The rain will come in late tonight, though. 80% chance of rain and some thunder. Check out the First Alert 7-day forecast. Morning rain gives way to sun, then another round of rain and storms Thursday night. Dry Friday. The weekend looks mostly dry. There could be a couple of showers here or there with another front coming through, and it looks dry to start next week with highs near 70.
Americans spend a lot of time on work.
It just permeates our entire life.
And that can take a toll, especially under tough conditions.
Working conditions can have a tremendous impact on our mental health.
A new report out Tuesday from the CDC reveals in 2021, about 1 in every 37 working adults aged 18 to 64 experienced serious psychological distress, severe enough to require treatment. The rates significantly higher for those who reported they had to work when physically ill, as well as for those who did not have access to paid sick leave. Likewise, people with late night or rotating shifts, inflexible schedules, and inconsistent pay also reported poor mental health.
People need to have a sense of agency in their lives.
Dr. Dennis Stoley of the American Psychological Association says a key reason behind the distress is a need for both predictability and flexibility.
Where people have the ability to both be able to count on fundamental things like that they're going to be able to pay their bills with their next paycheck.
His advice for employers: don't choose between economic productivity and caring for employees. The two go hand in hand.
A sense of psychological safety in a workplace increases productivity, increases innovation, increases retention, and they have a positive impact on their economic bottom line.
I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
Now, the Downtown Memphis Commission unveiled a new tool in their arsenal of Blue Suede Brigade. That's the Downtown Memphis Commission safety officers. It's responded to the uptick in property crime downtown by enhancing its security plan. And for the first time ever, Blue Suede Brigade will work overnight shifts. Joyce Peterson has more.
The hot rods on display on Beale Street Tuesday night, not the only cars turning heads in downtown Memphis.
Cover an extended area.
The Downtown Memphis Commission's Blue Suede Brigade, state-certified security officers who usually patrol on foot or bike during the day, now have a car that will be used on overnight patrols, looking for
any unusual activity, anything that seems to be out of place, just making sure that our residents, our tourists, and our business owners are safe.
A new report from the Memphis Shelby Crime Commission shows property crime January through March up 43% over the same time last year, and a 155% jump in car thefts is driving that statistic.
We thought that it was important that we continue to have a presence during the late night hours.
DMC president and Memphis mayoral candidate Paul Young says smart cameras with AI technology are going to be installed downtown soon.
And we'll be able to identify, what types of clothes were they wearing and where this individual will go as they pass through the network.
DMC's overnight patrols are designed to help Memphis police, who are about to focus on getting kids off the street after curfew to try and curb the escalation in juvenile crime. MPD will take young offenders to the Green Law Community Center where their parents will pick them up.
The spirit of our summer plan is not to harm our young people in any way. It's to protect them and to also protect our citizens.
Back on Beale Street, the Blue Suede Brigade offers hospitality and now added protection.
We are 100% committed to making sure the downtown remains safe.
Joyce Peterson reporting there. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's a challenging time to be a teen or a preteen for sure. I mean, it was 10, 20, 30 years ago, but even more so now in the advent of technology and social media. In fact, data released by the CDC's Youth Behavioral Survey shows that between 2011 and 2021, the percentage of high school students who felt persistently sad or hopeless increased. Now, parents and caregivers certainly play an important role in supporting their kids' emotional well-being. Let's bring in now to talk more about this Dr. Coraline Griffith Hunt and maybe some ways that we can help be a part of the solution to mental health and have that awareness out there. Doctor, what are some of the issues that you're seeing right now when it comes to mental health these days with teens and preteens? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. One of the problems that we are seeing is our teens don't know how to express their feelings. And so that's why now that we have this wonderful mental health acknowledgement in May, that we can start to have this conversation, start to help them to be comfortable in identifying their emotions. And a lot of the teens are saying, hey, we're feeling overwhelmed. We're feeling as though we don't know where to place our feelings. We're sad, we're depressed. How do I identify what I'm going through? We're seeing memory loss. We're seeing inability of our children to be able to concentrate and identify where to go to for the help.
Okay, that's interesting because it just seems like it's more of a problem, and I guess when it comes to the pandemic, and it's been a theme, you know, the pandemic has certainly impacted so much of our lives in so many different facets. Can you talk about how it's had an impact on youth mental health?
Absolutely. So our youth are experiencing various moods and emotions, and they don't know how to identify them. And so they're basically feeling overwhelmed. And with that, we're seeing frequent illness from our youth. We're seeing chest pains more frequently in the hospitals, crying out for aches and pains in the body. And so, let's really talk about it. The COVID-19 came and brought what we call collective trauma. And collective trauma is a trauma that we all experience together, right? As a society. And so we think of the ACEs and how that plays a toll in how our young people, the various adverse childhood experiences, adverse community environments where our young people are raised. And so that's why it's so important, even for the Ad Council, to come up with these resources and tools where parents and caregivers can have the opportunity to engage in meaningful, wholesome conversation so that our young people know they're not alone. We experience it as well. And it's important that we acknowledge their emotional well-being because it's just as important as their physical well-being.
We have thousands of people that watch us, Doctor, each and every morning here on the Action News 5 digital desk. If there are some parents out there or caregivers that are watching, what would be maybe like some bullet points to just kind of say, here's where you should start when it comes to bettering the mental health of your child?
Start checking in. Check in throughout the day, check in throughout the week. Start having those conversations, parents and caregivers. I know I'm a mom of 4, and at times they may not want to talk to you. They may not want to have the conversation, but be persistent. Check in on them. Start expressing how you're feeling. Model the behavior that you want to see. So you start initiating conversation and the tools that are there from the Ad Council. We have, conversation starter tools, there are manuals, and there's a tool even that talks about music, where we can talk about how we are feeling through music. And if you feel that there's a crisis going on, we have the national 988 number, where professionals are there to help guide you through the process. And so I say to you, be encouraged, but start having conversation. Relational connectiveness and engagement will bring healing to our families. And you're not alone. And young people need to know that they're not alone as well.
What about after that conversation? Is there something that we can do? I have older teens, and I just remember their middle school years were very, very challenging. Is there anything that you would tell maybe the parent or how about this, just the middle schooler or the high schooler that's watching this, what they can do? I mean, limits on phones, limits on social media. I mean, that's got to be a great place, I would think, to start.
Absolutely. Technology is wonderful. We all use it. We're using it right now. But the influx of all the different messages and information can become a little bit overwhelming. And so to the young people, the youth that might be watching, I'll say one thing. I know you're going through so many different changes in your life, and you're trying to understand your place in society and your place in the world. But I want you to know that we're here to help guide you. So please find someone that you can trust to talk to, your mom, your dad, caregiver, community. It's about community showing up for you, and we are here for you. Reach out to the members in your school, the administrators, social workers. We're here. Even if you go to your doctor's appointment, mention that you may be feeling a little overwhelmed. to your doctor so that, we can give you the help that's needed. You're not isolated, and you don't need to be isolated, and you don't need to feel as though it's only you going through this. We all have experienced various things in life. And when we tap into our emotional wellness, it makes us feel better, and we can't treat or heal what we haven't identified. That's why it's so important that we identify what we're feeling, we acknowledge it, we give voice to it, and we give value to it. And that is what I would say to our youth. We value your voice, we value your experiences, and we want to be there for you.
This has been great, Dr. Griffith Hunt. Anything else? Where can we go to get some information and pass along to our viewers?
Oh, absolutely. SoundItOutTogether.com. Once again, SoundItOutTogether.org. .org. SoundItOutTogether.org. You're going to find free, wonderful tools and resources for families to start this conversation and get that connectedness going. Once again, SoundItOutTogether.org. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Coraline Griffith Hunt. We appreciate your time this morning. Great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now this is a live picture from Bentonville, Arkansas. We see that former governor of Arkansas, Asa Hutchinson, is about to take the podium here. Some supporters still talking with regards to him, and he's expected to announce he is running for president in the Republican nomination, and this has been delayed a little while here, but we're certainly watching for that. And when that happens, we'll certainly pass it along to you. Okay, have you planned everything out for the summer? Because so many people have, and guess what? The numbers are showing that international travel bookings right now are up some 200%, more than 200%. It's a crazy number. People not only want to travel, they want to go international. They want to see the world. Let's bring in Megan Cooper with AAA to talk more about this number. An extraordinary number, but I have to say, Megan, my family and I this past spring break, we went to Costa Rica, and it was fabulous. Our producer, Amanda Hanson's got an amazing honeymoon plan internationally. I mean, I can totally get it. People are just ready to go. What are some of the reasons?
So people are more comfortable with traveling. We've seen that trend over the last couple of years, but people are ready to go. They're ready to get out and see new places. And, we're seeing that reflected in our travel bookings. So we're up 200% on international travel bookings compared to last year. The biggest increase we've seen is in hotel bookings. That's up over 300% compared to last year. So people are comfortable, they want to get out, and they just want to see the world.
I totally get it. That is so true in the people that I interact with a lot. So let's talk about, I guess, a priority list. What are some of the guidelines, since we probably know, with thousands of people watching us right now, we are either going international or we know a friend that's going international. What are the ways to really kind of set that list, that checklist for everybody?
Right. So one of the first things that you want to do is prioritize your passport. So if you have a trip planned or you're thinking about traveling internationally and you either don't have a passport or your passport is close to expiring, go ahead and get that taken care of as soon as possible. We are seeing a little bit of a longer wait time on some of those passports. In some cases, maybe 7 to 9 weeks. And you need this to travel internationally. So first things first, if you don't have your passport taken care of and secured away, go ahead and do that right now.
Very cool. What about when it comes to packing and, my biggest fear was that, our flight's going to get canceled and we're going to be, up a creek, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Right. So unfortunately, lost luggage, delayed flights, those are all things that we have to navigate now. and always have when we're traveling. So if you're traveling with other people, with a family, with a spouse, with a friend, when you're packing, maybe try to spread clothing and those items that you think that you're going to need across multiple suitcases. That way you don't have one person that has absolutely nothing while another suitcase might have made it and one person has, everything that they need. When I personally travel, I try to keep everything in a carry-on and try not to check baggage. So if at all possible, if you don't have to check that baggage, maybe try to fit everything into a carry-on. If you are checking that baggage, maybe just go ahead and put some extra identification in there. So maybe take out a big sheet of paper and write your information on it, just in case that luggage tag is lost or something happens. You want a way to get that luggage back to you if it is lost or misplaced.
You are a rarity, Megan. The women in my family, they all have to check luggage. Like I've even mentioned that. Like, hey, why don't we carry on? It'll make it better. They're like, no, what are you, crazy? We have to check luggage. So hats off to you. I'm even more impressed by you with that response.
It's taken years of practice, I will say.
I bet. That's the other fear, though, that the luggage is going to get lost. I mean, is there any way, obviously, carry on is the best way. Is there any other way to maybe mark your luggage to make sure that it doesn't get lost? Or is there something else that people can do?
Just make sure that you're checking that baggage early. Make sure that you're giving yourself plenty of time to check it in. Be mindful of how you're planning your flights. So if at all possible, try to book those early morning flights. Those have a less likelihood of being delayed. And then take a look at what destinations you're traveling through. Is it a nonstop flight? Obviously, with a nonstop flight, that's less places that your baggage has to go. So limit those in between destinations. And if at all possible, if you can't avoid those, give yourself plenty of time at those different stops. And sometimes we just can't avoid losing our luggage. Sometimes the inevitable happens, and you're that unlucky person. So that is one instance where travel insurance can really come in handy. And travel insurance does cover some of those costs of delayed flights as well as lost baggage fees.
Help me maneuver travel insurance for a second here, because I know travel insurance is a big question mark for a lot of people when they travel internationally. There's a train of thought that says, well, the travel insurance doesn't cover certain issues that are more likely to happen, so why even get it? And then there's another one that says, no, you need to get travel insurance and get the highest amount, or maybe you should get it for just specific things. Tell me where you stand, where AAA stands when it comes to travel insurance.
So with travel insurance, we always advise for people to purchase this, especially if you're traveling internationally. You're likely spending a lot of money. So we want you to protect that investment. If anything happens, if you get sick, if you can't go on that vacation, if something happens while you're on that vacation, we want you to be able to get that investment back if you at all possibly can. So with travel insurance, there are different options. So depending on what you're booking, how you're traveling, it really can be beneficial. So with those different types of travel insurance, of course, some things are covered, some things are not covered. And I think it ultimately comes down to that personal choice and how comfortable with risk that you are. But just personally, and from AAA, if you're making that investment and traveling, you really want to protect that so you're not losing out on money if something were to happen on that trip. And that's also where a travel advisor comes in very handy, because they can explain to you, what travel insurance would look like for your trip, how much you need, what that would cost. And a lot of times it's really not that expensive to add on that travel insurance policy to your trip.
Good deal. I appreciate you explaining that. Anything else you want to mention that you feel is important for some of the people, some of our viewers, thousands of which join us each and every morning, when they're traveling internationally?
I think the biggest thing this year is planning ahead. We're expecting things to be very busy. I've already heard reports this morning that we're expecting things to get even busier this summer. So if you haven't booked that international travel yet, go ahead and do that as soon as possible, especially if you're traveling this summer. But planning ahead, flexibility is key. If you are in the early planning phases of, planning an international trip, some of those ways that you can save money are being flexible, maybe, traveling in the off season, maybe traveling during the week versus on the weekend. But the biggest thing I think for travelers this year is start to plan early and book that trip early. With the demand and the interest that we've seen so far this year, that's likely to continue throughout the rest of the year. So that sweet spot of getting the trip that you want at the price that you want really is going to come from planning ahead and booking early.
Megan Cooper, who only carries on her luggage on those international flights. Megan, I really appreciate you and all that you do for us here at the Digital Desk, informing our public about the do's and don'ts when it comes to so many different things, including international travel. Thanks very much.
All right, Amanda Hansen here at the Digital Desk. I want to tell you about an upcoming event, Child Abuse Awareness 2023. It's happening Sunday, April 30th at 3 p.m. And joining me live on the Digital Desk this morning, Barbara Love. Good morning, Barbara. How you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to have you on and talking about this upcoming event. I know this is being put on by the Love Foundation. Can you tell us a little bit about the Love Foundation and the mission?
Sure. The Love Foundation is a organization that provides love and care for women and children that have been through domestic violence and sexual abuse. We service people through the city, and we like to talk, share, show them love, and let them know they're not alone.
And I believe we maybe talked to you last year. I think you put on a similar event last year. Can you talk about why this mission and this organization is just so important for you?
Well, first and foremost, children are our future, for one, and they didn't ask to be here. But me being myself being sexually assaulted as a child, living through a parent that was supposed to be my protector ended up being my predator. Like many kids, they're living a life of not being able to tell. And for me, I want to make awareness where they understand that it is people that is just like them, and there are people that care. And I want to make sure that if nobody else gets the awareness, I can let them know that I am here for them.
You're taking that pain and using it for a purpose, and I think that's incredible.
Absolutely. I'm used as a platform.
Absolutely, and being able to share your story makes people connect with you even more that maybe have experienced something like that. I do want to talk about the event, though, because obviously it's all about awareness, and it's coming up April 30th. Tell us more about it.
It is. This event is it's bringing knowledge and bringing awareness to the community. And one of the biggest thing is that we have people from all over the community that is getting involved. We have dance teams like Elite Fire Reds, GHS, Prince and Tiger Reds, Dance Divas. We have Star Steppers. We have teams and speakers that want to come out and want to help in this event because this feels so close to their heart, and they want to be able to have an opportunity to give back to the community, and also to let them know that they're not alone as well. So this event is very dear to each and every one of us, and I'm just thankful that they're actually coming out to be able to help with this event.
And I know you have here on the flyer just some of the speakers that are going to be there. Can you talk a little bit about them?
Yeah, so Sir Kilo is a motivational speaker. He speaks to kids all over the world. He talks to them about being, about self-love, knowing your worth, knowing that you can grow, you can be better than what anybody says you can be. Because anybody knows that normally when you are having abuse, a lot of times people say you're not going to be anybody, you're not going to make yourself, you're not going to be anybody, or you're not going to make yourself better than you were. So with Sir Kilo, he gives you that motivation of where you are somebody. And so that's why I chose him to be a part of this event, because I know that he makes a difference already in the community. And I know that the kids will gravitate to him and understand exactly where he's coming from.
Absolutely, and I love it. It looks like there's going to be all kinds of stuff, the free ice cream, the bouncers. I like the idea of a TikTok dance area. I think that's a lot of fun, and so it just sounds like it's going to be a great event. And obviously there is a mission here that you're hoping to accomplish. Can you talk about that?
Right. The mission to accomplish is to build relationships with the people in our community, stand in as a gap to where they don't have to worry about nobody's being there for them. And also to let them know that this is a non-judgmental event. It's a non-judgmental thing that we're doing for the community. And we want them to know that we are here for them at all costs, And we want to show them love.
So I know obviously y'all have done events like this before. How was the turnout at those, and what kind of response do you get from people in the community when you host these?
Well, the turnout again, we normally get a great turnout. Normally people, when they come out, they may not speak at that moment when the event is going on, but it's always the after fact. They always call, they text, they go to the social media page. And they just, give me all this information, and they want to be a part, and they want the help. They just don't want to say the help, in person. So it's a great help for the community. It's a lot of people that's hurting. They want to get help, and they want to heal.
Absolutely, and it's great that you are someone that's stepped up to the plate to be able to help to be that resource for people. Barbara, anything?
Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. Did you know that more than 16 million Americans are diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, known as ADHD? It ranges from children, teens to adults. And right now, there is a nationwide shortage of the medications used to treat ADHD. In fact, the FDA announced the shortage back in October, blaming manufacturing delays. But there are researchers and experts that say the shortage is more about an increase in demand. ADHD diagnoses have spiked significantly during the pandemic. Let's bring in someone to talk more about this issue. I'm joined now by Dr. Greg Mattingly, the Associate Clinical Professor of Washington University, physician as well. Good morning, Doctor. Let's talk about, first off, I know what ADHD is, but for our audience and viewers, can you talk a little bit in layman's terms about what ADHD is and how common it has become? Good morning.
Good morning. So ADHD, is probably many of your listeners know, it's a common condition. Matter of fact, it's the most common neurologic condition in all of childhood, not just here in the United States, but all around the world. So here in the United States, but if I went to Canada, if I went to Europe, if I went over to Asia, it's 8 to 10% of kids meet criteria for ADHD. So it's a common condition. And one of the things that we have learned over the last 20 years is for most kids, it's not going to go away. If this is the way you're wired, 80 to 90% of kids are going to have that as they become teenagers, as they go off to university, as they start that first job, and as they become adults. Common symptoms are I get distracted. It's hard to focus. I get bored, and when I get bored, then everything kind of accelerates and I find myself getting frustrated. Maybe I get fidgety and restless. Maybe I blurt things out and I interrupt other people around me. So problems with disorganization, time management, frustration tolerance because of those things for our patients with ADHD.
You know, Doctor, I have some family members that have ADHD, and it seems to affect them in different ways. And there is a difference, right? I mean, the symptoms are different for men and women, boys and girls, all across the spectrum.
100%. And that's why the answers are not going to be one size fit all answers either. So some people have ADHD and they have a lot of the hyperactivity when they're kids. Other people, it's a lot of disorganization. It's hard to concentrate. I get overwhelmed by things. I have a lot of anxiety because of that, and I get frustrated. Some of them have a hard time shutting their brain off at night. Falling asleep at night because my brain is still going can be a frustration for some of our patients with ADHD. And then some of our adults with ADHD can be problems around my temper. I get frustrated, I tend to blow. So how do you learn to modulate that as one of your symptoms that's a result of having ADHD?
So you are the president-elect of the American Professional Society of ADHD-related disorders. Can you talk about how ADHD is typically treated these days? I know everyone has the idea of medication, and there's different medications, right?
100%. So if there's good news for your listeners out there is we have a lot of different options. When I was first in practice 30 years ago, our options were just short-acting stimulants, and you had to take them multiple times a day. And a lot of people didn't like the side effects. They didn't like the way they felt when those things kind of kicked in and wore off. And we know those medicines, being short-acting Ritalin or Adderall, they can be misused or abused sometimes by people that are doing the wrong things. A lot of our newer treatment options are once daily medicines. You take them once a day, and they give you very low levels of medicine, just enough to help to improve your symptoms, but not so much that you're having as many of the unwanted side effects. So we have over 30 different treatment options right now that are approved for children with ADHD. A lot of those are also approved for adults. And we have 4 non-stimulants that are approved for ADHD, 2 of those that are approved for adults, atomoxetine and Qelbree. So it's not even always a stimulant option, and it's certainly not always a short-acting stimulant that you have to take multiple times a day.
Do patients grow out of this? I've always heard that, by the time, if someone in their teenage years, for example, is diagnosed with ADHD, can they grow out of that ADHD by the time they're in their mid to late 20s? How does that work?
Yeah. So one of the myths of ADHD is there's a couple of myths. Boys, not girls. You tend to grow out of it. Only take your medicine when you think you need it. We know those are all not their best outcomes. We know that boys are more common when they're young, but as you become an adult, women are equally common with ADHD. We know that for most people, you're not going to grow out of it. 80 to 90% are going to continue to have some set of symptoms as they go into adulthood. So learning how ADHD affects your life so you can have the most successful life possible, learning where there's a good fit for your symptoms. If I stick you behind a boring desk and make you do that job all day with ADHD, it's going to be hard. But if I give you a job that's a little more interesting, maybe you're interacting with people, maybe you're doing what you're doing, where you're giving interviews to people and staying active, that may be a better fit for someone with ADHD. So learning about your condition, telling your clinician, hey, here's where I see difficulties in my life. Maybe it's at home with my wife in the evenings where I get frustrated because I'm disorganized and I'm just overwhelmed.
When we introduce you to the digital desk, we talked about this nationwide shortage that was it was announced back in the fall of last year. Do we still have this shortage? And my understanding is that there are so many people being diagnosed. How did the pandemic have an impact on the diagnosis of ADHD?
100%. So during the pandemic, as we were all sitting at home doing our jobs virtually, our kids were having to learn at home virtually. If you had problems with concentration, being distracted, it came up to the forefront. Everybody could see it. So parents were looking at their kids saying, God, I know the teachers brought this up, but now I see it with my kids. I need to get them some help. Parents themselves looked at themselves and they said, God, I'm overwhelmed with this. I've always been wired this way, but in this current digital world, this is just overwhelming. So the rates of ADHD and people coming in for help did go up during the pandemic. Then we had a fixed supply of medications out there. And that supply is probably not going to go up, especially the supply of short-acting stimulants. So if you have increased demand with a fixed supply, that led to a nationwide shortage.
Has that shortage gotten any better? Where are we on that?
Yeah, unfortunately, it has not, especially with certain of them. Short-acting stimulants are in short supply all across the country. Here in Missouri, but if I went out to Washington, D.C., if I went to Baltimore, if I went to California, short-acting stimulants are in short supply, and they're probably going to stay that way. So that's made us all examine with our patients, are there other long-acting, once-daily treatments that may help to manage your symptoms, may even be a better fit for your symptoms, because those medicines do tend to have a better supply these days.
Let's talk about those different options because, if the shortage is going to stick around a while, let's talk about different treatments.
Of course. So I'll just give you a bunch of names you may want to think about with your clinician. And once again, this is a personal choice with you and your clinician. We have a long-acting amphetamine called Vyvanse that still tends to have pretty good supply, and there's an even longer-lasting one called Mydayis that has long supply. We have various versions of Concerta. Some of those are generic, some of them are not. Some of those are available, some are a little harder to get a hold of. And then we have some methylphenidates that come in a beaded formulation called Focalin or Metadate that tend to be available right now. We have 2 non-stimulants for adults that tend to be available, both atenmoxetine and Qelbree. Both have pretty good supply all across the country. So I think those are some of the names you may think about. So we have shortages of some of the types of ADHD medicines, but we have other versions that are in pretty good supply.
You know, this has been an interesting interview, Doctor, and something that's revealing to so many out there. We have thousands of viewers each and every morning joining us here, and I know that either someone knows or has a friend or perhaps a family member with ADHD. Where can they go to get some more information on what we talked about and any other questions they may have?
I'll give you 2 resources. One is a group called CHAD. And CHAD makes a magazine once a month called Attitude. And CHAD is a group of patients that have ADHD that are advocates that put together these resources. So Attitude's a once a month magazine. In addition, APSARD, the organization that's a group of researchers, teachers, doctors, nurses, psychologists, apsard.org, has a lot of resources and can steer you in places to learn more about ADHD.
You know, this has been a great interview. Dr. Greg Mattingly, Associate Clinical Professor, Washington University, and we really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, that does it for the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Have yourself a wonderful afternoon. We got Ariana Poindexter anchoring the Action News 5 Midday Report, and then we can get into the Digital Desk bright and early tomorrow morning. There's a lot to talk about tomorrow morning. We're going to have, of course, reaction to the Grizzlies in Game 5, and then a host of other things. We're talking about news and weather, so make sure you join us beginning bright and early at 8 o'clock. See you then.